Chapter 281. What? The great hero storyteller? Debating on behalf of old demon Duan? Following the deep and shallow breathing technique, Duan Yun quickly recovered his strength. The sky was about to darken, but he still did not stop his steps of righteousness and chivalry. After all, Lei Dianzi of Little Lei City was not yet completely eradicated. Some lacking in spirit had even gone into hiding. Thus, he walked through the city, shouting loudly, "Who knows where the thunder listeners are?" His true chi was so robust that it made the snowflakes flutter, and his voice carried very far. The city was already in utter chaos. Hearing that an extraordinary martial lunatic had come, who would kill any ugly noble and Mr. Lei he saw, such news terrified countless people. My goodness, even the high and mighty nobles and Mr. Lei are being killed. What kind of person is this? Afterward, an even more terrifying piece of news arrived. The sect leader of the Thunder God and Mother sect was killed by that lunatic. In the hearts of everyone in Little Lei City, the sect leader was a true living immortal, the wrath of the Thunder God and Mother from the heavens. Even the people of the Thunder God and Mother are being killed. Is this still a human? Is there no law and order left? And so, after this shout, the originally noisy Little Lei City fell silent as if overtaken by the cold chill of cicadas, with several children wanting to cry being gagged. Duan Yun continued to call out, "Don't be afraid. I am a hero on a mission of justice, here to act for heaven and eliminate harm for the people." This voice continued to drift out, scaring people even more into immobility. Rest assured, this time I will cleanse thoroughly and return peace to Little Lei City. My reputation as Duan Yun for justice and heroism is universally acclaimed. Little Lei City was isolated and surrounded by danger. Ordinary people would never have the chance to leave in their lifetime. However, the thunder listeners of this place often wandered outside Little Lei City to practice their unique skills. So, hearing the name Duan Yun, the remaining disciples of the Thunder God and Mother sect instantly turned pale. It's over. It's old demon Duan. Old demon Duan was notoriously vengeful. These thunder listeners usually just listened to the thunder obediently, at most getting inspired by the teachings of the Thunder God and Mother to kill a few commoners as a test or to experiment on some people, never mindlessly slaughtering the innocent. It was enough to kill one family, and they were too lazy to kill another next door. But them, who were normally so honest and straightforward, for some reason had offended old demon Duan. The elders who went for revenge were killed one after another, and later even the sect leader was magnanimous enough not to hold a grudge. Yet this catastrophe actually came knocking on their door to exterminate them. At this moment, a married couple who had been led around the streets like dogs, the husband with a flickering gaze and an anxious, hesitant expression. Eventually, he suddenly opened the door, rushed into the street, and said, "Young hero Duan, I know where an elder is hiding. Good, lead the way." Duan Yun looked at the man with eyes reflecting approval. The fifth elder of the Thunder God and Mother sect, Zhao Fadi, was the youngest elder, and the one with the greatest lust, also favored by the sect leader as one of the elders. Because his lust was not limited to men and women, even animals were not spared, which quite fitted the sect leader's philosophy of not being limited by gender or beauty. Recently, he had also taken a liking to stealing people, to stealing the dogs of his fellow disciples. It was this very married couple that had been led around like dogs. And through this, the husband came to know his secret lair. After passing a few corridors, a rockery emerged in the courtyard. The man said to Duan Yun, "This rockery is hollow inside." With a boom, Duan Yun's figure flashed like lightning, directly plunging into it. At this time, Zhao Fadi was still channeling energy into a gagged snow leopard. With such chaos in the city, people were hard to find, so he had to make do with warming up with a snow leopard. The next moment, however, a figure flashed by and appeared before him. "Zhao Fadi!" A voice rang out, and Zhao Fadi instinctively uttered an "ah." But the next instant, his body was pierced by the jade sword finger sword energy. But Zhao Fadi was also a tough character. Even with his forehead and heart penetrated, he still swept away with the snow leopard, attempting to escape. Yes, after many years of cultivation and close guidance from the sect leader, his head had grown accustomed to such piercing injuries, and he had even learned a heart-shifting skill in the process of thunder listening. Now his heart had moved to the vicinity of his abdomen. If perfected, the heart could even be positioned on the buttocks. But in the next moment, as he tried to escape, his body was enshrouded in a black mist. Ah! A piercing scream rose, and Zhao Fadi was enveloped by the death energy breaking body sword energy, forming a sword mist, becoming riddled with holes at once. Even more horrifying for him was that the handsome young man grabbed his ankle and dragged him back. With a snap, his head was severed. Before dying, he saw that husband, the one forced to be a dog for his disciple brother. It was you who brought him here. As soon as the words fell, he died. Seeing that this man's vitality was so tenacious, Duan Yun was still not at ease and so impaled his head on a sword before leaving directly. When the head of the fifth elder was carried out by Duan Yun, many despicable beauties in the city knew this was their one and only chance. Young hero, I know where a Lei Dianzi no Lei the lunatic is hiding. And Li Guerin. He killed my twin daughters, claiming to take them for alchemy. I know. I know. Suddenly, Little Lei City witnessed a public uprising, acting for heaven on an unprecedented scale. The previously tortured beautiful people, under the leadership of young hero Duan, were filled with heroic spirit. Against ugly nobles with ordinary martial skills, they could take them down themselves, binding them for trial. Facing Lei Dianzi, some even bravely detained him, awaiting Duan Yun's arrival. That's right, they remembered the humiliating experiences of their family members being harmed and were willing to seek revenge with their lives. Chapter 282. Before, there was no hope at all. But now, young hero Duan who acts for heaven has arrived. By nightfall, the crazed, bloodthirsty citizens of Little Lei City had been almost entirely killed off, with the remaining ones being the ugly nobles awaiting judgment. He killed my sister just because she didn't lick his feet to his satisfaction. You lying dog, I did not. Young hero, you wouldn't kill the innocent, would you? I didn't do it. A wily-looking nobleman Wang faced Duan Yun, denying the accusation. Duan Yun nodded. Rest assured, this young hero would not wrong a good person. As he spoke, his hand was already on the opponent's crown, and a suction. With less than half a cup of tea's time, Nobleman Wang's eyes popped open, exclaiming, I want to be a hero. Since you aspire to be a hero, then you must be guilt-free. Tell me, did you kill her sister? Duan Yun inquired. Nobleman Wang puzzledly responded, consider it killing. But since her sister was so pretty, can she really be considered human? The next moment, there was already an extra blood hole in the center of his eyebrows. This judgment lasted until dawn. It's fair to say that among those unsightly, none were wronged. Suddenly, Little Lei City was left with less than half its population. After all, this city had no shortage of unsightly precious creatures, and there were even some of average looks, vying to be among the nobility, aspiring to rise above others. Gazing at the corpses that littered the street, Duan Yun felt an intense sense of satisfaction and exhilaration. It was the scent of evil being eradicated, of heroic spirit filling the heavens and earth. Inside Little Lei City, many people were weeping, because they were already covered in scars, on their bodies, in their hearts. Now that someone enacted justice for them, an unreal sense like they were dreaming, made them want nothing but to cry. So there really are heroes in this world. This life seems like a prolonged nightmare, that just by weeping properly, the nightmare should come to an end. Duan Yun remembered the woman covered in whip marks that he had seen upon entering Little Lei City. She was one among the countless humiliated. He did not see her. Perhaps she heeded his advice to hide, or perhaps she was somewhere crying or rejoicing. Nevertheless, things here should come to an end. Duan Yun searched around again, even opening a statue of the Thunder God and the Mother statue, but found no reward. The Thunder God and Mother sect worship thunder listening as their primary cultivation. Aside from inscribing thunder language upon their own skin, they left behind nearly no martial arts secret books. One could say they were a group of lunatics living by listening to thunder. At dawn, as Duan-yun walked the streets, many people kneeled and bowed to him. Honestly, he wasn't used to this. He simply hoped someone would sincerely call him young hero, not treating him like a lifesaver or even an emperor. At that moment, a rooster crowed within Little Lei City. Duan-yun heard the sound of snow sliding off the trees. He suddenly missed Yuzhu Villa, missed Xiao Ying, the Murong brothers, and their sister. Wondered whether the Murong brothers managed to properly transport back the luxurious cellar furnishings he constructed. Yes, he wanted to return. Missed his friends. In any case, this should be the longest journey he had embarked upon as a young hero. Having traversed 3 states, being chivalrous was invigorating, but it was also time to share the joy with friends. Therefore, after another stroll around the city, ensuring no fish had slipped the net, Duan-yun decided to leave. There was also no lack of people who wanted to leave with him. After all, this Little Lei City was too secluded. Some of the good-looking ones were captured by the crazed bloodthirsty to proliferate slaves. Of course, there were also those who preferred not to leave, especially some who were close to ugly but hadn't committed heinous crimes. They also enjoyed certain privileges here. They felt fairly contented with this place, even harboring some resentment toward Duan-yun's arrival but dared not show it. And the rest were all ready to leave. Before, they couldn't escape because the snow mountains were dangerous enough. But now with young hero Duan, they could finally leave, some even able to return home. After Little Lei City's people prepared for a while, Duan-yun left with them at midday. The group was not small by any means, easily 200 to 300 people in a long stream. Duan-yun still hadn't seen the woman with whip marks all over her body. But he didn't give it much thought. After all, everyone has their own decisions. And so very soon, Little Lei City became even quieter, only left with some who were not particularly ugly. At this time, someone finally realized, with the ugly nobles largely killed off, they became the ugliest ones. But since all the good-looking people had left, their ugliness had no purpose anymore. Indeed, they were no longer esteemed above the good-looking ones. Almost at the same moment, there was a pop sound. The snow shifted, and from underneath the charred earth crawled out a person. A very beautiful woman. She was Chen Yun, the woman covered in whip marks that Duan-yun had encountered. She had been struck by an electric sword while watching Duan-yun and the Red Building women's confrontation, feeling frustrated that she couldn't assist. She thought she'd died but found herself alive, even feeling unusually light all over. Chen Yun couldn't help but look down, and to her amazement found that the whip marks on her body had significantly lightened. What happened? Chen Yun walked towards the city in confusion, eventually encountering people burying bodies. Only then did she learn of the full circumstances and felt deep gratitude towards Duan-yun. A group of people, newly ascended to the ugliest in Little Lei City, suddenly laid eyes on a beautiful survivor like Chen Yun, their gazes unavoidably sparkling with desire. Chapter 283. Chen Yun, young hero Duan has already left with his people. You definitely can't leave on your own. You have no choice but to stay. Hihi. How did those nobles beat you up back then? While speaking, a man with a lustful look in his eyes leaned in. The next moment there was a thud. The burly man was sent flying, his nose broken. Chen Yun looked at her fist, somewhat surprised. She had noticed a change in herself while walking on the road earlier. Her footprints in the snow had become shallower than before, similar to those skilled thunder listeners. Unexpectedly, her punch had such power, as if she were born with divine strength. She glanced at the others. The group that was initially eager to try all avoided her gaze. Afterward, Chen Yun walked away. Even if she couldn't follow young hero Duan's footsteps and leave, she still had her own path to pursue. At night, the thunder roared repeatedly. With a bang, a bolt of lightning struck the statue of the thunder god and mother. The next moment, the red nose twitched, and the clay statue shakily stood up. The reason it was shaking was partly because it seemed unfamiliar with this body and part of it was already broken. Duan-yun, while searching for the secret book, dug deep into the statue. The thunder god and mother statue, with its broken backside, walked through the night, terrifyingly. Eventually, it stood in front of a large pit. There lay the place where sect leader Yen Rufeng of the Thunder God and Mother Sect died. In an instant, the long red nose lifted, and thunder and lightning crackled all around. For a moment, the thunder and lightning seemed red as if tinged with blood. These sounds of thunder and lightning blended together, as if a man and woman were speaking in human tongues. "Oh, my dear Star Fury!" In Stone Tower City, a storyteller in the busiest area of the city was recounting the tale of Old Demon Duan. The story of Old Demon Duan going to Little Lei City to massacre, specifically targeting ugly people and brutally killing the honest Thunder listeners, written by bloodthirsty storyteller Shui, had already spread across Liuzhou, creating a sensation in the local martial arts world. Several who had originally used the reputation of the Thunder God and Mother Sect to suppress Old Demon Duan were now being metaphorically slapped in the face, beating their chests in regret. There's a saying that even a mighty dragon can't suppress a local snake, but Old Demon Duan, ruthless and cruel, scattered even the local snake's ashes overnight. Is it a sin to be born ugly? Should one be killed for being ugly? Old Demon Duan, utterly heartless, slaughtered all the ugly people in Little Lei City. I am ugly, and I refuse to accept this. A group of ugly listeners nodded in agreement. I think the ugly heroes of the martial world should come together. We can't let Old Demon Duan continue. With a bang, at that moment, a beautiful woman suddenly walked up and flipped over the storyteller's chair. "What are you doing?" the storyteller exclaimed angrily. A group of rather ugly listeners also became angry. After hearing the stories told by the storyteller, some of them had the idea of becoming storytellers themselves, wanting to spread the evil deeds of Old Demon Duan so that the skilled fighters among the ugly could know and put an end to Old Demon Duan, thus having a clear world for themselves. Suddenly, a beauty causing a disturbance. How could they not be angry? Chen Yun's beautiful eyes condensed, saying, "You're talking nonsense. The latest information I got from my colleagues is genuine. How is it nonsense?" The storyteller retorted confidently, with a big nose on his face. Chen Yun retorted, "How can you spout such nonsense? I am from Little Lei City, and I personally witnessed young hero Duan acting for heaven. Do you think you understand the situation better than me? Ha 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 ha. Did you hear that? This woman actually called Old Demon Duan a young hero, ha ha ha. Old Demon Duan kills ugly people indiscriminately and still wants to claim." With a bang, the storyteller was sent flying. He fell to the ground, his nose completely crooked, blood flowing non-stop, unable to even crawl up. This woman turned out to be a master. The crowd was shocked, and two of the previously angry ugly people thought about escaping. But Chen Yun already shouted, "Whoever dares to run, I will smash their nose." The ugly man turned his head, painfully said, "Miss, my mother is pregnant. I need to go back and take care of her. Sit down." With that shout, everyone in the tea house instantly straightened up. Today, I will properly tell you the story of young hero Duan's heroic deeds, acting for heaven and saving Little Lei City. Whoever dares to leave before listening to the end, I will kill them. That's right, not even allowed to pee. Listen to young hero Duan's story. No peeing allowed. These days, after leaving Little Lei City, Chun Yun roamed around Thunder City. And after learning that Duan Yun had left, all she felt was sorrow and gratitude. She thought about following his footsteps, but considering her own wounded body, she felt unworthy. Today, upon hearing the storyteller's nonsense, she couldn't hold back any longer. Through observing these past few days, she knew the rumors about young hero Duan had been spreading for a while now, all thanks to these rotten storytellers. Thus, at this moment, she suddenly had an epiphany, finding her own path. This world is already so unjust. Some people just want to add fuel to the fire, with lies becoming truths through repetition. Since there were so many shameless people slandering young hero Duan, then she will debate for young hero Duan. She would also become a storyteller, dedicated to young hero Duan. When Chen Yun shared her experiences, especially about the evils of the ugly nobles in Little Lei City, The torments they suffered stirred many people into grinding their teeth and shedding tears. When mentioning how young hero Duan used a pole to run through the ugly noble and the thunder madman, marching boldly towards the thunder god and mother sect, people actually cheered. This was mainly because Chun Yun truly knew how to tell a tale, making it vivid and deeply immersive. Because this was essentially a portrayal of her life. After Chun Yun finished, people then left either quickly or slowly. The quick ones were rushing to pee, the slow ones were still absorbed in the story. Compared to the storyteller with the crooked nose, they were more inclined to believe the story of young hero Duan. After all, Chun Yun mentioned too many details that other storytellers couldn't provide, proving her identity as a local of Little Lei City. Chun Yun took a deep breath, and just then, a man approached. He thumped down on his knees before Chun Yun. Chun Yun asked in surprise, "What are you doing?" "Miss Chen, I too want to tell stories, just like you." "Telling the stories of young hero Duan's heroic deeds," the man said excitedly. Chun Yun shook her head and said, "Telling stories this way could offend many people, and you might even die." Indeed, not everyone has her kind of experiences, nor can everyone carve the name of young hero Duan into their thigh, showing their determination. "I'm not afraid. My wife was killed by someone from the Thunder God and Mother sect. Even if I die, I cannot let young hero Duan be wronged." As he spoke, the man ripped his sleeve open, revealing 4 bloody words, "Young hero Duan Yun." These were the words he had carved onto himself right after listening to Chen Yun's storytelling, unable to contain the grief for his deceased wife and his gratitude towards young hero Duan any longer. Yes, as if a mysterious force was guiding him, compelling him to become a storyteller, to sing praises of the young hero, a storyteller extolling heroism. Chapter 284. The Jade Feet Under the Bed. Late at night, at a tea house, 6 storytellers gathered together, each with a different expression. Among them 2 were particularly conspicuous, because their noses were crooked, completely twisted. Old Demon Duan, that beast, actually created a great hero storyteller, spreading rumors and confusing people daily. The worst part is they're sabotaging our gigs. "Look at my handsome nose. It's been twisted off to Grandma's house." Don't panic, everyone. They're just a few new storytellers who don't even know the rules of storytelling. If it really comes down to storytelling and ruthlessness, who are we, the bloodthirsty storytellers, afraid of? An elderly storyteller spoke up. "Old Zhang, you don't know. This new storyteller that old Demon Duan brought about is really wicked. My tea house is right next to theirs, and the one doing well is the one telling stories for old Demon Duan," complained the man with the crooked nose. "What? These new storytellers tell stories better than us? Not only do they do better business, they're also better at beguiling people. People are saying they feel influenced by the supreme heroic spirit, wanting to propagate acts of heroism and fight against evil, making it seem like old Demon Duan is the hero and we are the villains framing him. These pig-dog listeners, after all the talking, are just a bunch of simple-minded idiots. They don't listen to the facts from us bloodthirsty storytellers, but instead believe the enchanting words of old Demon Duan's people. Yes, old Demon Duan has always been a scourge to the martial world, and now he even wants to turn black into white. He should be struck dead by lightning, distorting right and wrong, reversing causality. It has infuriated me to no end. I've been a storyteller for half my life, and I've never encountered such a situation," an old man said in deep distress. "Isn't there anyone who can kill off these bewitching great hero storytellers to set the record straight? If we let these people talk nonsense, will there be any rules left in the martial world?" Another storyteller said indignantly, clutching his liver as if going mad. "We, the bloodthirsty storytellers, have always had no rivals in this field. But who knew old Demon Duan would pull this new trick and leave us so frustrated? It makes me want to strike viciously, to kill those storytellers who blindly advocate for old Demon Duan." At this moment, the man with the crooked nose said, "It's no use. The leader of the great hero storytellers is a woman empowered with demon technique by old Demon Duan. An ordinary person can't beat her. Only a top expert could." Yet in this age, which reputable expert would dare to provoke old Demon Duan? Old Demon Duan's mind is smaller than the eye of a needle. Previously, both Zhu Xiang and Zhu Haimian from the same family suffered a miserable death, and even our Thunder God and Mother sect from Lizhou was annihilated. Thinking of us, Thunder listeners in Lizhou, once renowned throughout Zhou, now become rare objects. Any mishap and we'd vanish from the records of Lizhou's martial world. At this, all 6 storytellers fell silent. Then, the old man analyzed, what is their biggest weakness now? Everyone remember, we are the orthodox storytellers of this world. No one shall take that from us. The man with the crooked nose said, for now, it seems their numbers are few and their power slightly weak. Old Demon Duan is bent on setting up a storyteller organization to oppose us and the justice of the human world. We, millions of bloodthirsty storytellers, just need to step up our efforts. Even our spit could drown them. That's right. We, the bloodthirsty storytellers, are the orthodox narrators of the human world, where evil shall not overcome the good. With so few of them, daring to defend the notorious by debate, let's intensify our effort and make them despised and loathed just like old Demon Duan. Indeed, the listeners also need to be harshly taught a lesson. Really growing pig brains. Not listening to the facts we told but being beguiled by old Demon Duan. At that moment, the old man wrapped a red silk scarf around his head, and the others followed suit. Let's contact the organization and get started. Let's talk these old Demon Duan storytellers to death in Lizhou. For a moment, the 6 storytellers with red silk scarves in their hair also filled their eyes with bloodthirstiness. Huang Mountain Huangshan Sword Sect. Sun Bukong lay under the pitch-black bed, feeling an inexplicable tension. Logically, he shouldn't be so nervous. He is a thief, a very famous thief. The people of martial world call him the man of 71 transformations, who can change into various things in an instant, so you can hardly see him even when he's right in front of you. It's an exaggerated statement, but it also proves from the side that his thieving skills are indeed superb. Sun Bukong is very modest, yet he never denies his great thieving skills. For a period, he even thought about comparing skills with Thief Saint Bai Yutong and Thief Commander Chu Tianqing. After all, he had once stolen the belly band of a noble concubine during her intimate moment with the emperor in the imperial palace. Since he could move in and out of the emperor's sleeping quarters so freely, he was naturally confident about being a thief. That was also why he dared to come to the Huangshan Sword Sect. As for the Azure Dragon incident, 6 dragon essences appeared in the world, 2 of which turned into little dragon people and vanished. The remaining 4, 1 each acquired by Red Tower Mountain and Yushu Palace. Only Huangshan Sword Sect uniquely obtained 2. He who is not afraid of thieves stealing, but fears thieves thinking about stealing. Even though Huangshan Sword Sect is a major sect in the martial world with profound heritage, it still attracted many of Sun Bukong's peers to take their chances. And all those incompetents, without exception, failed. After entering Huangshan Sword Sect, they disappeared. They probably left their lives here. Sun Bukong was very confident. Hence he came. He didn't want much, just to take one. As a shrewd old thief, the first place Sun Bukong went to was sect leader's wife Zhao Ling's quarters. Both dragon essences were in Zhao Ling's possession. According to his deductions, the dragon essence might be hidden in this lady's quarters. Even if it wasn't here, there should be some clues. Chapter 285. Indeed, Sun Bukong had found a tiny clue. But his luck was not on his side. Just as he was about to leave, the voice of a woman came from outside. The voice sounded quite gentle, yet it subtly carried a killing intent. Sun Bukong recognized at once that it was the voice of Mrs. Zhao Ling from the Huangshan Sword Sect. No ordinary sword cultivator could possess such imposing aura. Sun Bukong's qinggong and thievery skills were superb, and his expertise in bedroom arts was unmatched. He was exceptional in both stealing items and seducing people, but he knew full well that he was no match for the sect leader's wife. They say women are like wolves at 30, tigers at 40, and can inhale dust from the ground at 50. A woman like Zhao Ling was even more formidable. Therefore, he hid himself under the bed, clad in all black, blending with the shadows, and employed the turtle breath skills, as if becoming a part of the floor. His method of concealment was such that even the most top-notch masters would struggle to detect him. This was why he could move in and out of the imperial palace with ease. This technique originated from the Daiha ninjutsu he obtained from a Fusang wanderer in his early years. It was then integrated with his bone shrinking skill and other extraordinary abilities, making it infallible. But he didn't know if it was because he hadn't committed a major theft in a year and his skills had rusted, or if the Huangshan sword sect leader's wife, who had gained sole possession of 2 dragon essences, truly warranted caution. Either way, he felt an unusual sense of nervousness for the first time in a while. At this moment, he wasn't just using the turtle breath skills. He even reduced his heartbeat to the bare minimum to prevent even that slight motion from drawing the attention of such a grandmaster-level expert. The door creaked open. Before Sun Wukong's eyes appeared a pair of beautiful feet. These feet were donned in purple flower shoes. The insteps were very white, flawless, resembling white snow on purple blossoms. Having seen countless women, Sun Wukong naturally understood the allure of such feet. But still, he remained motionless. Not even his heart stirred. Because although the feet were beautiful, their owner was extremely dangerous. Mrs. Zhao Ling of the Huangshan sword sect was such a woman. At that moment, with a thud, a circle of purple ripples appeared on the floor. That was Mrs. Zhao Ling's belly band and skirt discarded. In other words, the woman was now bare, except for the pair of purple flower shoes on her feet. What a tempting vixen! Sun Wukong continued to maintain absolute calm, even slowing the circulation of his blood to avoid emitting too much breath. At this time, the sect leader's wife, Mrs. Zhao Ling, slowly walked to the bedside, inching closer to Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong could even smell the scent coming from her feet. For a moment, these feet seemed to hold a tremendous mystical attraction, as if they could snatch away his soul. Though Sun Wukong was looking, because of professionalism, he showed no reaction. At this moment, he was no different from the floor beneath the bed. The next moment, the wood planks above slightly dipped. That was Mrs. Zhao Ling, without her clothes, lying down. Now, Sun Wukong dared even less to make a move, feeling an indescribable sense of oppression. It was as if the sect leader's wife's body heat could seep through the wood panels. Even Sun Wukong felt a bit of pressure in this situation. An odd pressure. The sect leader's wife, dressed only in those purple flower shoes, at an age considered ravenous, and known for her ruthless disposition. Such a woman could indeed be very tempting to a man. If it were any other lady who wasn't so intimidating, he might have already emerged from under the bed, taking advantage of her unaware state, while saying, "Lady, you wouldn't want to be harmed wearing only shoes," catering to desire in the process. But now he dared not. He was no match for this woman. Suddenly appearing before a naked Mrs. Zhao Ling, he might gain a moment's advantage, but after that, he would be the one to die. He had been confident that with some distance, he could rely on his exquisite qinggong to escape, but now he was not so sure anymore. This woman seemed to possess a curious magical power, making it difficult for him to gauge the depth. Above, there were no more movements, only the sound of steady breathing. Had Mrs. Zhao fallen asleep? But Sun Wukong still didn't dare to move. He was fully prepared for a drawn-out ordeal, very patient. If this troublesome lady did not leave, he would not act. At that moment, Sun Wukong frowned slightly as he heard a noise. Then, with a squeak, the window cracked open a sliver. The next moment, a pair of deep blue sword boots entered Sun Wukong's vision. The only man who could enter Mrs. Zhao's room like this had to be her husband, which is the sect leader of the Huangshan sword sect, Chun Sanju. But he remembered that Chun Sanju was supposed to be in seclusion. Indeed, it had always been his wife, Mrs. Zhao Ling, who had been active in the martial world, and she was the one who fought for the dragon essence. Had he already come out of seclusion? But why would he enter through the window? Indeed, why would a sect leader enter his own room through the window? And on the bed, Mrs. Zhao Ling showed no reaction. At that time, the owner of the boots suddenly said, "Lady, I have arrived." Hearing this, Sun Wukong was a little stunned. It was not Chun Sanju. Upon thinking of the naked Zhao Ling on the bed, he became even more puzzled. What was this? What are you waiting for? Soon after, Mrs. Zhao Ling's voice came from the bed, cool with a hint of seduction, like ice wrapping around a core of fire. Yes, this disciple replied very respectfully, obediently removing his robe and climbing up, causing Sun Bukong to feel the bed plank dipping once again. Then, continuous movements and pressure came from above. Chapter 286. Sun Bukong dared not even breathe out, afraid that the bedboard would sink too severely and press down on him. That way, he might be discovered. At this point, he wanted to use his bone shrinking skills, but it was too late, for the movement of bone shrinking skills might also be noticed by Mrs. Zhao. Sun Bukong had seen the world. He had even seen the emperor and his imperial consort do this sort of thing many times with his own eyes, but this time hiding under the bed, could be called the most thrilling and bizarre experience of his life. He actually bumped into the sect leader's wife of Huangshan sword sect committing adultery, and with a disciple, right under their bed. The commotion on the bed gradually subsided, and then Zhao Ling's voice was heard. "You can go now, don't let anyone see." Understood. This man, who should be a disciple of Zhao Ling, quickly got dressed and left through the window. But at this moment, Sun Bukong witnessed a very strange scene. That is, he saw another boot. A deep red boot. The boot was outside the door, propped there for who knows how long, giving off a sense of horror when viewed from under the bed. It must be known that Sun Bukong, being a thief, had exceptionally alert ears, especially when lying close to the ground. He could sense movements much earlier. For instance, just now with the man in the dark blue sword boots. Before he even pushed open the window to enter, Sun Bukong had sensed it. He could even tell the strength of the other party's light body skills. Yet he had not noticed this red boot at all. Even with the loud commotion coming from the bed, it should not have been like this. Because the first thing he felt against the ground were the slightest vibrations, not the sound. This could only mean that this person's qigong was extremely advanced, no less than his, perhaps even stronger. So there's only one such person in Huangshan sword sect. Huangshan sword sect's sect leader, Chun Sanju. Does this mean Chun Sanju has been outside the door all along, secretly watching his own wife and disciple have an affair? What kind of situation has this old man stumbled upon? Since he witnessed the affair, could these two start fighting? Sun Bukong complained inwardly. He was a little worried. If these two started fighting, the destructive power would definitely be immense. Whether this bed would be smashed through and whether he would be affected was anyone's guess. That would be dangerous. At this moment, Mrs. Zhao's voice came from the bed. "My dear, have you watched enough?" Sure enough, the person outside was Chun Sanju. Did Zhao Ling know all along that he was there? Or did she just find out? The door creaked open. The owner of those red boots walked in, laughing. "I've seen enough. Quite enjoyable." "Then are you still capable?" "Of course, right now." With that, the red boots were flung to the side of the bed, and the bedboard sank once more. Sun Bukong felt his brain was malfunctioning, even feeling a bit like crying. They say some sect leaders and grandmasters are into exotic play, but isn't this too much? Your Huangshan sword sect is a renowned and noble clan after all. In that instant, Sun Bukong felt terror. Indeed, having stumbled upon such a secret of these two, if he were to be discovered, he certainly wouldn't survive. If it had been a direct encounter with sect leader's wife Zhao Ling, he would have a 40% chance of escaping relying on his qigong, but facing this perverted couple, he wouldn't stand even a 10% chance. His death would be certain. He absolutely must not be discovered. This time, the movement from the bed was even more intense than before. "Lady, I love you. What do you love about me?" "I love all of you, especially your feet." So it turns out that the sect leader of Huangshan sword sect not only enjoys being cuckolded but is also a pervert who likes feet? For a moment, Sun Bukong's eyes moistened. What kind of people are all in Huangshan sword sect? Feeling nervous, scared, and somewhat confused, Sun Bukong listened to the activity overhead and suddenly thought of someone. Green Blade Demon. They say Green Blade Demon's sword chi is poisonous, and the only antidote is to allow one's beloved to make merry with another, an extremely shocking method. But if Green Blade Demon encountered Chen Sanju, sect leader of Huangshan's sword sect, he would probably be utterly helpless. Because he actually enjoys this. No wonder you became sect leader. Just as Sun Bukong was feeling immense pressure and was practically numb, there was a loud bang. The bedboard broke. A pure white foot appeared before his eyes. Just inches away. That was Mrs. Zhao's foot. Still wearing the same purple embroidered flower shoes, though the shoe heel had come off the sole, revealing the pale bottom of the foot. This time, Sun Bukong could clearly smell the scent above him. He had already stopped breathing, fearing that even a slight warmth from his nostrils might alert the woman. So what appeared before him was undoubtedly a foot that was extremely seductive yet extremely dangerous. The foot swayed, mere inches from him. Slowly, the foot retracted back. 3 inches, 2 inches, 1 inch, until it completely disappeared from his line of sight. Sun Bukong closed his eyes, feeling as if he had experienced a narrow escape. He let out a sigh of relief in his heart, but at this moment, a clear and cold voice arose. "Do you think my feet are beautiful?" Sun Bukong's mind went blank, and he opened his eyes. He saw the foot return, displayed before his eyes. But this time, the foot was no longer wearing a shoe, revealing its complete form. The foot's instep, sole, and ankle were still fair and delicate, seemingly flawless, but the front covered by the shoe was another matter entirely. There were rows of slender claws, covered in blue scales, and the scales refracted a brilliantly beautiful rainbow halo. Sun Bukong's mind raced with 2 words, Dragon Claw. This dragon claw on the jade foot looked sinister, fearsome, and horrific. Yet in Sun Bukong's eyes, there was a different kind of allure. He even felt that there was no foot in the world more seductive and beautiful than this one. In the next instant, the dragon claw lifted, and Sun Bukong's eyes turned white. Just before losing consciousness, he witnessed a very peculiar scene. That was Huangshan's sword sect leader Chen Sanju passionately licking the sinister dragon claw, his expression crazed. So, the dragon essence had already been absorbed by Zhao Ling. Chapter 287. I want to step on the demon and reach the summit of martial arts. Huang Mountain, surrounded by curling clouds. In the grand hall of the Huangshan sword sect, Lady Zhao Ling was seated in the main seat, with sect leader Chen Sanju sitting beside her. Evidently, Zhao Ling had become the master of Huang Mountain, and Chen Sanju seemed to have no objection. His eyes filled with fervent love towards his wife. For an aged couple to still love each other so passionately is indeed extraordinary. Below the main seat, about a dozen people were kneeling at this moment. These people, men and women of various ages and looks, carried weapons that varied as drastically as the differences between a human and a pig. The Huangshan sword sect was relatively strict in accepting disciples, and the couple Chen Sanju was famous for being superficial, ensuring their disciples at least had a certain standard in appearance and demeanor. If not for Zhuxiang Zhuhaimian being a famously handsome young man in his locality, and their own daughter changing her heart, the couple likely would have already gone to kill them. At that time, Rat Phase had disappeared, and they were not afraid of the headless and tailless 12 demons. Now, such a mix of good and bad people from the martial world gathering in the great hall of Huang Mountain was indeed a rare sight. At this moment, Zhao Ling crossed her legs and said radiantly, "Do you truly wish to join my Huangshan sword sect?" The man leading the group below quickly responded, "Lady, through fire and water. Lady, we wish to join the Huangshan sword sect and fully support you as the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch." Hearing this, a stronger gleam sparked in Zhao Ling's eyes. Their daughter and their son-in-law, whom they never acknowledged, were murdered by old demon Duan, leaving behind the humiliating rumors of urine on the golden sword, casting a dark shadow over Zhao Ling's life. Since her husband was in seclusion at the time, she could not retaliate against old demon Duan immediately. Many peers in the martial world regarded the Huangshan sword sect as a joke. After all, the sect, though a famous large sect, had never stood at the peak of the martial world and often became the subject of tales about their defeats. But now everything had changed. She alone obtained 2 dragon essences, and having digested most of them, she was close to fully absorbing the dragon essences to possibly become the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch. Last time, that Taoist developed a pair of dragon claws, wanting to grab anyone he chose. And now, she had dragon claws too, and would traverse the martial world assertively. Yes, she wanted to be the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch. Once she fully absorbed the dragon essence, old Demon Duan would be nothing more than stepping stones on her path to become the Alliance hierarch. The group below was mixed in quality, with some strangely looking but fairly strong. Due to them all having consumed dragon tendon and dragon meat, their powers had significantly increased. Like the Taoist who founded the Dragon Claw sect, she attracted these people, as if it were destiny. If not her, then who else would be the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch? At this moment, Zhao Ling kicked off her right shoe, revealing her menacing dragon claw. With this, everyone present stared in awe. Since you've chosen loyalty, come over then. The leading man happily showed a lecherous smile and walked over. Following him, those who joined the Huangshan sword sect had already willingly lined up, waiting to relish this pleasure. Lady's dragon foot is truly peerless and exquisitely beautiful in the world. Chan Sanju watched this scene, his eyes filled with jealousy yet also joy. Just then, a young woman holding a sword walked in. Seeing the people above, the woman couldn't help but respectfully say, "Master, Lady Master, Qingyu has returned." At this, both Chun Sanju and Zhao Ling showed puzzled expressions. Another major humiliation for the Huangshan sword sect was when their senior student, Lu Qingyu, lost to White Sox and was castrated, then disappeared. Now this person claimed to be Qingyu, but regardless of the voice or appearance, she had changed into a woman. Quite a beautiful woman, with large breasts and a married woman's allure. If not for the enticing draw of the lady's dragon foot, perhaps 8 out of 10 people present would feel a stirring of the heart. How could this be Qingyu? But upon closer observation, they realized the woman's facial features really did bear some resemblance to their senior disciple Lu Qingyu. Chan Sanju stood up, puzzled, and said, "You, Master and Lady Master, your disciple secretly cultivated old Demon Duan's demon technique and has turned into a woman," Lu Qingyu replied. Hearing this, those who had been focused on the dragon foot couldn't help but turn to look. Lu Qingyu seemed to enjoy the attention, even thrusting out her chest, allowing others to look. Zhao Ling's expression cooled as she said, "Qingyu, you've learned old Demon Duan's demon technique and became this way, thinking my Huangshan sword sect is inferior to old Demon Duan?" Lu Qingyu bowed her head. Chan Sanju looked at his favored pupil and sighed, "Qingyu, I know you've gone through much hardship, but why torture yourself this way?" Lu Qingyu replied, "Master, Qingyu isn't torturing herself. On the contrary, after cultivating the demon technique and becoming a woman, I've discovered other joys." Then, she looked towards Zhao Ling and said, "Lady Master, there's no need to be agitated. Knowing oneself and the enemy ensures victory in every battle. As a disciple, I infiltrated the old demon sect and mastered his demon technique, believing I have a fair chance against him." "Oh," Zhao Ling said thoughtfully while raising her foot. Lu Qingyu continued, "Now, the Huangshan 6 swords still exist, and the Huangshan sword array is commendable. However, I discovered that if it could be combined with the old demon's cultivation technique, it could be even more effective. I earnestly request Master and Lady Master to let other junior brothers cultivate the old demon's cultivation technique. When the Huangshan 6 swords are unsheathed, there wouldn't even be a need for Master and Lady Master to intervene, and we could have old Demon Duan beheaded." Chapter 288. The Huangshan sword sect's prestige will surely reach new heights then. "Are you certain?" Zhao Ling asked. To be honest, she was somewhat tempted. Lu Qingyu confidently said, "This disciple is confident." She was confident all right, but it had scared the other junior brothers half to death. The third junior brother quickly said, "Master Mistress, This matter requires careful consideration. The fourth junior brother said in a panic, "Yes, mistress. If our Huangshan sword sect practices old demon Duan's demon technique, we may fall into inferiority." Lu Qingyu snorted coldly and said, "You two junior brothers, being a man isn't that much fun. As for being a senior brother, after my transformation, I found a different kind of pleasure." The third and fourth junior brother were at a loss for words. "You've been castrated, where is the pleasure in that?" But they still have theirs. At this moment, sect leader Chan Sanju furrowed his brows, eyeing his disciple, and said with a frown, "Qingyu, what is this?" Lu Qingyu respectfully bowed, revealing deep furrows, and said, "Master, after reversing my yin-yang, I endured humiliations in the Jade Sword sect. Yes, I've paid a price upon my return, no longer pure, but in these experiences, I found pleasures that men cannot fathom." In that moment, the third and fourth junior brothers shuddered, feeling the hairs on their bodies stand on end. So the so-called pleasures involved becoming a woman and experiencing that. No wonder she resembled a young married woman. Way too twisted. This person was even more twisted, wanting to drag them down with her. They, as part of the Huangshan Six Swords, standing tall and handsome, how could they possibly become like that? Then, Zhao Ling glanced at them both and said, "Why don't we just give Qingyu's suggestion a try?" What? What? The third and fourth junior brothers felt like they were struck by thunder, unable to believe their own ears. They wanted to resist, but by then Lu Qingyu had already spoken. "Mistress aspires to be the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch. We, the Six Swords, shall naturally do our utmost to slay old Demon Duan as a congratulatory gift." Third junior brother, fourth junior brother, what you'll lose is but useless appendages. Yet it will allow the Huangshan sword sect to gain majesty. Lu Qingyu spoke more and more righteously. The saying, "Return the method upon the perpetrator," thinking about old Demon Duan being defeated by his own demon technique at the hands of his juniors, gave Zhao Ling a strong sense of satisfaction. And when she would stomp him to death with her dragon foot, that sense of revenge would be even more intensified. Thus he gave the order, "Let's do as Qingyu suggests." "Mistress." The third junior brother wanted to resist, but upon seeing the stern look on the mistress's face, he didn't dare to speak. Mistress had now refined 2 dragon essence, aiming to become the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch. How could a mere disciple dare to openly oppose her? The third junior brother was feeling extremely conflicted at this moment. On one hand, he was obsessed with the mistress's dragon foot, willing to go through fire and water just to receive a single breath of it. On the other hand, he thought the mistress was terrifying, more dreadful than before, as though a shadow had enveloped her, giving her a terrifying presence that was neither human nor non-human. At this time, Zhao Ling added, "You have at most 2 months. If you can't achieve it within 2 months' time, you know the consequences." Then, she left, stepping on her dragon foot. Yes, 2 months were the limit because she absolutely did not want to see old Demon Duan live to see the new year. Similarly, her ascension to become the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch had to be expedited. She, Zhao Ling, wanted to stand upon the peak of the martial world with old Demon Duan's head under her feet. Thinking this, the dragon scales on her dragon foot suddenly became even more vivid, and her dragon claws sharper and longer. She was really eager to find out how many slashes old Demon Duan could withstand. Duan Yun rode his horse back. The horse was quite sensible, not heading straight home, but waiting for him in that rundown town. The journey back felt lighter than the one coming, given that the big affair had been settled, and the mood to return home was naturally different. In this increasingly cold weather, Duan Yun rode alone, gradually understanding the wanderer's sentiments. Wanderers who travel abroad and can return home to see long-lost friends and family, especially loved ones, during the new year, it's a very comforting solace. While prodigals also drifting are lonelier, because wanderers, though drifting, have a home to return to, while prodigals are homeless, like duckweeds in the water, unable to settle down. Duan Yun was grateful he was the former. Though he had lost both parents, he still had a place to belong. He still has a Yuju Villa, where friends are waiting for his return. Thinking of Yuju Villa, his mood couldn't help but brighten up again. To get back as quickly as possible, he passed through a town without stopping and bought a large bag of steamed buns to continue on his way. Up ahead, a crowd had gathered on the street. Just like before, he craned his neck to see what the excitement was about. In the midst of the crowd stood a middle-aged man, filthy from head to toe. In these times, seeing beggars and displaced people on the street wasn't unusual, but this man was attracting quite a bit of attention, due to the fact that despite the cold weather, his clothes barely covered him, and his body was covered with scratches. Especially on his thigh, there were numerous righteous characters written. Duan Yun pulled on the reins to stop his horse, because he felt that writing looked familiar. Wait, wasn't that the character he had written on Old Gua's thigh? How did Old Gua end up here? If not for those righteous characters, Duan Yun probably wouldn't have recognized him. Because he was covered in wounds and filth, he looked as if he had swaggered around India and come back. At this moment, a middle-aged man covered Old Gua's body with a robe, trying to take him away. But then two nearby people quickly stopped him and said, "Wang Lao-san, what good act are you putting on? I can't stand to see him in such a pitiable state," the man said. "You dirty old bachelor, pretending to be your mother. You just want to enjoy him all by yourself. Look, this guy is so saucy viewers should share him. You want to hoard him? Ask our brothers if we agree." The middle-aged man's pretext was exposed, and his face reddened as he said, I was just going to take him back to wash up, and then I'll let him out." At this time, Old Gua suddenly lifted his head and saw Duan Yun. His dazed expression instantly changed. "Old Demon Duan! Old Demon Duan! People are getting killed! Old Demon Duan is the most wicked in the world. The White Sox sect can't handle him. The White Sox sect has insulted me 1,000 times, but they are nothing compared to Old Demon Duan. Young Hero Duan! Young Hero Duan, please spare my life. Ha ha ha! I, the Old Demon Duan from Yun State, am the top evildoer in the world. I'll kill the White Sox. White Sox!" Hearing the 3 words Old Demon Duan, the crowd was already somewhat scared, but now with the addition of White Sox, they were even more terrified and quickly distanced themselves. In Qingzhou territory, the mention of White Sox was akin to a horrifying taboo. Compared to its stronghold in Yun State, the infamy of Old Demon Duan was nowhere near as terrifying as that of the White Sox here. It should be noted that the White Sox sect has its sect hierarch, and under him are the 4 heavenly kings. Just Gua Heavenly King alone has a bigger reputation in Qingzhou than Old Demon Duan. Yes, the martial world is vast, and opinions vary across the different regions of Zhouzhou. In Yun State, Old Demon Duan's wicked reputation surpasses that of the 4 heavenly kings, but here in Qingzhou he falls short. Knowing that this man might be a plaything of the White Sox, regardless of how alluring Old Gua was, the testosterone crowd still backed off, and even those who were watching the show retreated a bit further. A person in the know side, "This fellow is a storyteller from Yun State. It is said that the White Sox big shots initially intended to let him go after having their fun for a while. But during the abuse, he might have been unable to take it and went mad, persistently saying that Gua Heavenly King was no match for Old Demon Duan's wickedness, always boasting about the number 1 malevolent nature of Old Demon Duan, claiming that when he turns evil, the likes of the White Sox sect, Gua Heavenly King, King Lu, and others are nothing in comparison. Hence he was played with even more ruthlessly, and the more he was played with, the more deranged he became, spouting nonsense. And so, they say the White Sox were worn out by him, and he managed to run off. By this time, that Wang Lao-san, who was clearly still concerned about Old Gua, tried to pull him away, but only to be met with a loud shout from Old Gua. "Old Demon Duan has arrived. Old Demon Duan has brought chaos to the martial world. Those who don't want to die, run." With a boom, he sent Wang Lao-san flying and dashed away like smoke. The force of the collision and his speed of escape were both quite remarkable, enough to be considered a master in the martial world. Poor Wang Lao-san, he ended up with a broken neck and actually died. Duan Yun watched all this pondering. How did old Gua become so formidable? Could it be that, after the White Sox sex initiation, he grew stronger? Or could it be that old Gua was always a hidden master? Indeed, he had had many run-ins with old Gua, breaking his legs numerous times, never discovering his martial arts ability or sensing any true chi from him. But just now, the other party had changed into a true master. For a moment, he couldn't help but think that perhaps even a storyteller like old Gua might have secrets. This absurd world has far too many things worth investigating. As Duan Yun rode his horse intending to catch old Gua, who kept slandering him, to further examine him, old Gua was nowhere to be found. That guy, he sure could run fast. Chapter 289. Old Demon Duan's pettiness won't even spare ghosts. Duan Yun hastened home, leaving the horse panting heavily, finally returning within the bounds of Yun's state. He passed by an inn, had the waiter take his horse to graze, and ordered 3 dishes and a soup for himself. After the meal, he decided to hit the road again. But as he mounted the steed, he suddenly felt a numbness in his rear. Duan Yun turned his head and unexpectedly discovered a blood-red centipede biting into his buttocks. Damn! With a smack, breaking body sword energy surged out, slaughtering the centipede. Duan Yun sat there, his eyebrows slightly raised. The centipede was quite poisonous. He could feel the fiery toxin spreading through his body. But fast as the poison was, Duan Yun's true chi was faster. With a swish, true chi combined with sword chi, carrying the poisoned blood and shooting it out instantly. Duan Yun's finger flashed like lightning, tapping the bite, and the next instant, the bleeding stopped, not only clotting but whitening and healing until it looked as good as new. After mastering the electromagnetic sword field, Duan Yun found healing with electricity increasingly second nature. He was sure he could improve Murong Brothers' skin whitening technique by another notch. In a moment, Duan Yun completed the poison force out, healed the wound, and dealt with the poisonous centipede. You could say that the centipede, which could easily kill a person, was no more serious to him now than a mosquito bite. To some extent, being able to force out poison instantaneously, he could also be considered immune to all toxins. Duan Yun looked at the mangled corpse of the centipede and took a cautious glance around. Yun's state was rife with poisonous bugs. This seemed like an accident, but he felt something amiss. Mainly because he was bitten as soon as he mounted, that meant the centipede had been near the saddle all along. The horse was always alert. It couldn't possibly have let the centipede crawl from its body to the saddle without reacting. Could someone have placed it on the saddle? Or could it be a trained centipede that eluded the horse and directly flew onto the saddle? Unfortunately, the centipede was too small. His boundless heroic spirit hadn't reached the level where he could resonate with such venomous insects. Otherwise, he would have made the centipede shiver a few times to see if this was truly an accident or something else. Without any clue regarding the matter, Duan Yun continued his journey. Indeed, even if someone wanted to harm him, this trick was still too obvious. 3 days later, Duan Yun arrived at Yusher town. Looking at the familiar town, he couldn't help feeling affectionate. Once here, Duan Yun finally breathed a sigh of relief. Familiar places always made one relax easier. It's just that traveling in ancient times was so difficult. A journey measured in months still made him somewhat uncomfortable. Duan Yun didn't rush to Yuzhu Villa but went to Old Chen's braised food shop instead. Got himself a bowl of braised noodles with 2 chicken legs, and halfway through, ordered another plate of crispy pork belly. After all, he had been on the road for the past few days, traveling by day and night, eating and sleeping in the open air. Heroes need to eat too. After finishing all this, Duan Yun felt truly back. Afterward, he mounted his horse and headed to Yuzhu Villa. Today the weather was overcast, looking like nightfall despite only being afternoon. By the lakeside, several fishermen were huddled up, perseverance evident as they fished. Duan Yun made his way up the hillside. At this time, the trees were bare, the grass withered, but upon seeing the rundown villa amidst the mountains, Duan Yun felt warmth. Indeed, the ground was covered with straw almost like gold, and the broken stone slabs were as white as jade, welcoming him home. Thump, Thump, thump. Duan Yun dismounted and knocked on the villa's gate with a relaxed expression. It didn't take long for the gate to creak open. It was Panda Dabai who opened the door. Upon seeing Duan Yun, Dabai immediately gave him a joyous bear hug, emitting a series of happy barks. Then, following Dabai inside, Duan Yun's mood also became buoyant. Seeing the rundown villa and thinking of his room and the broken bed made him feel at ease and relaxed. "Who is it?" At that moment, Shadow Ying's voice came from inside. The next moment, Duan Yun froze. This instant, several people suddenly emerged from within the villa. Most outrageous was that 3 women emerged from his room. 3 very beautiful women. One with long hair twisted into a bun, gentle and charming. The other 2 identical in their beautiful and fierce appearances. So lively. Following Shadow Ying, Fenglinger and Murong brothers, Yuzhu Villa suddenly seemed as bustling and festive as during the New Year. Or to be more accurate, even during New Year, Yuzhu Villa shouldn't have had so many people. In Duan Yun's mind, since Fenglinger had the maids leave, there were usually only Shadow Ying, Fenglinger, Murong brothers, and himself at the villa. Now, the number of people was nearly double. The gentle beauty couldn't help but smile and said, "Dr. Duan, long time no see." This gentle beauty was none other than Murong brothers' sister, Fu Wanjun, the first patient he had healed. And the other 2 twin sisters were naturally the goddess catcher, Lang Yiming and Lang Yishue. At this moment, Shining couldn't help but make a sarcastic comment. "During your absence, there seemed to be no shortage of people missing you and looking for you." Fenglinger joined in, teasing, "Yeah, Dr. Duan. Young hero Duan has quite a reputation. There are always beauties waiting." Murong brothers turned green, sporting a look of deep-seated resentment. Luckily, Wanjun was normal, not bewildered like Linger. At that moment, Fu Wanjun coughed and said, "Dr. Duan, I came to look for you for treatment." Indeed, she wanted to prove her innocence. She was just a patient with no interest in the doctor. Chapter 290. Before I knew it, half a year had passed since the last time I shivered from the cold on Fu Wanjun's body, and her true qi was spreading again. It was time to treat her. At this time, Lang Yiming hurriedly explained, "My sister and I are here to deliver a message. First off, don't get any funny ideas. Our family would never leave me alone with an old demon. Duan Yun, this little sister is still so blunt." Yet Fenglinger and Shadow Ying had no intention of letting him off. Shining said with a look of disdain, "You might be far away, but we've heard the story several times. They called you to save Murong's sister, but you didn't find Murong's sister. Instead, they say you took over the entire Chongling sect." Duan Yun hurriedly explained, "I didn't. That's all the storyteller's nonsense." "Really? They say that Chongling sect's new sect leader Yu Jinjin can't stop thinking about you, confirming with her own words that you deliberately spanked her. Right? She even gave you all the secret books of their sect," teased Fenglinger in a mocking tone. Murong added fuel to the fire, saying, "That's not all. The sword fairy of the Chongling sect would come to him every night. Many times, I was under their bed, in utter torment." Duan Yun showed a shocked expression. This was the truth. Even Murong being under the bed was true. But why did it sound so off when described this way? "Disgusting. Really disgusting," Fenglinger said indignantly. "Pervert. A real pervert," Shadow Ying added. "Shameless. Truly shameless." Murong threw more fuel on the fire. "Shut up. Shut up. Who are you to talk about him? Who are you to talk about him?" In an instant, Murong was scolded unanimously by both Shining and Fenglinger, looking bewildered. Why is it that when he made the mistake the young master, was the one getting scolded? These 2 women have always been at odds, yet now they were acting like sisters. With arms outstretched, Duan Yun said, "The innocent have nothing to hide. I, young hero Duan, a strong man like me, need not explain to the likes of you. Wanjun, let's go to the cellar." With that, he headed to the familiar cellar. "All right, Dr. Duan." Fu Wanjun obediently followed and turned her head back like a fox before entering the cellar. Xiao Ying and Feng Linger quickly realized, could this lady's pretense of decency be just an act? Suddenly, a crowd wanted to watch Duanyun treat his patient in the cellar, but then heard a clang. The cellar door was slammed shut, locking them out. Seeing this, Murong rushed to the cellar door and while knocking anxiously said, "Hey Duan, Wanjun is scared of pain. Be gentle." No response came from inside, leaving only Murong's face turning green as he strained his ears to listen. Inside the cellar, Fu Wanjun lay on a wooden plank, as still as a corpse. It seemed as natural for her as if she were laying in her own bed at home. With a stretch of his hand, Duanyun's palm touched the top of Fu Wanjun's head. Almost simultaneously, Fu Wanjun's jet-black hair began to flutter as her true qi slowly flowed. Unlike the last time's nervousness, this time she seemed quite trusting of Duanyun, even teasing while taking in breaths. "I never expected you, Dr. Duan, to be such a romantic. How wrong I was to think you were a serious doctor." Duanyun replied, "I am a serious doctor." As he said this, his hand pressed down harder, and Fu Wanjun let out a soft groan, her toes curling into a ball. But she still teased. "So a serious doctor shivers with cold on people's bodies." Duanyun answered, "The shiver is just a side effect of the treatment. You're going to shiver a lot in a while." Fu Wanjun, "What? It's been half a year. Your true qi has become truly unruly. But my medical skills have improved a lot, so this time I'll treat you vigorously." With a creak, his fingertips now sparked with electricity. MMM. Fu Wanjun tensed all over. As the violent true qi inside her was forcefully subdued by Duanyun, withdrawn, and stimulated by the lightning, Fu Wanjun felt herself entering an unprecedented state. In a split second, Duanyun and she both shivered from the cold. Intense and sustained shivers. After it was over, Duanyun took a long breath and stood up. Fu Wanjun was still lying there, a fine sweat on her nose, and she said in a daze, "So a shiver can actually be this comfortable." Then, sitting up and tidying her hair, she couldn't help but ask, "Dr. Duan, how long until my next treatment?" Looking at his palm, Duanyun said, "The treatment went deeper this time. It should be good for 2 years." Fu Wanjun batted her beautiful eyes and said, "That long?" Her tone was unexpectedly a bit despondent. Afterwards, the two came out of the cellar, their expressions as calm as a sage's. After finding everyone staring at them with various expressions, Fu Wanjun casually revealed, "Dr. Duan's medicine is very effective. I'm all right. To show my gratitude, I'll cook dinner tonight." Then, she said easily, "Don't worry, I have no interest in the doctor. I'll be leaving tomorrow." Feng Linger couldn't help but say, "If you're fine, why don't you leave now? With this guy back, there's not enough room in this place for so many people." Fu Wanjun raised an eyebrow and said, "Because I'm hungry. I want to have a full meal and a good sleep before I leave. Speaking of which, you should call me sister. Tonight, I'll sleep at your place." Feng Linger, faced with the unwelcome attitude of this woman, she was momentarily at a loss for words. Young hero Duan didn't expect his duties to be so hectic. He had just arrived at Mountain Villa, having first treated Fu Wanjun, and now he was about to host Lang Yiming and Lang Yishue. However, after much persuasion, since it was close to mealtime, they decided to talk while eating. Chapter 291. For dinner, they ended up eating fish. It was said that during his absence, Feng Linger and Shining had become fishing enthusiasts, often going to the lake to fish. Their catch was quite plentiful each time. However, according to Murong brothers in private, these two fishermen usually lured the fish with bait. Then Xiao Ying would punch the fish to the shore to complete the fishing task. I must say, this way of fishing is quite efficient, as evidenced by the dishes on the table, such as steamed fish with fermented black beans, braised grass carp, fruitwood grilled fish, crucian carp tofu soup, and even a dish of Westlake vinegar fish made by the Murong brothers. Westlake vinegar fish is a famous dish from Yangzhou, which the Murong brothers took a fancy to while traveling there and thus diligently learned the specialty. Sadly, This signature dish was only symbolically tasted by everyone with a few chopsticks before being left aside. Morong brothers couldn't help but comment, "The fish isn't from Westlake, and the vinegar isn't good either. It's not up to standard." Shining nodded. "Right, if Morong chef were by Westlake, he would definitely do better." Upon hearing this, Morong brothers were somewhat embarrassed. It's not that he hadn't cooked by Westlake before, but the taste was still indescribable. Or rather, the dish of Westlake vinegar fish itself is indescribable, harder to make delicious than practicing the 12 layers of spring rain. Morong brothers' Westlake vinegar fish might not taste great, but that didn't stop the other fish dishes from being delicious. Especially when set against his Westlake vinegar fish, the other fish even seemed tastier. For a time, everyone was dining with great enjoyment. In this manner, as they ate, the group really felt like they were celebrating the new year at home. Everyone here was either drifting through the martial world or had a home they either couldn't return to or didn't want to return to. The outside world was full of killings and filled with conspiracies and tricks, while here it seemed much simpler, giving a sense of warmth. If outsiders saw this scene, they would find it unbelievable. After all, just hearing the names Old Demon Duan, Green Blade Demon, White-Haired Witch, Flower Fanatic Red Beauty, Nine Death Female Fist, would make one's sleep and appetite suffer, let alone dining together. But at this moment, they were eating together very peacefully. Because they were friends who understood each other. Duan Yun liked it here for this reason. He felt that even if the whole world misunderstood him, the people here would get him, believe in him. At this time, Lung Yiming and Lung Yishue couldn't help but bring up matter of intelligence to Duan Yun. According to them, they had been keeping an eye out for the fallen ones for Duan Yun, trying to find the source of the fallen, and during this time, they had discovered traces of divine Dr. Shui from the Jiangzhong sect. When they inquired further, they learned that Dr. Shui had suddenly taken an interest in a female infant. A female infant? Everyone said, puzzled. It is said that the female infant was able to stand on her head from birth, and before she was even 1 year old, she was able to kill people, having slain several Jianghu people, and we found out that this infant is related to another branch of the Jade Girl Sword sect you're investigating. Upon hearing this, everyone couldn't help feeling a chilling sensation. An infant who could stand on her head from birth and kill people before the age of 1. Was that a human or a monster? Feng Linger couldn't help asking, how did those Jianghu people die? Yes, how strong could an infant be? How did she kill people, especially those of the martial world? Lung Yishue replied, one died from a sword chi piercing the heart. One was slapped to death with a broken throat, and another was hanged from a tree. Was it that female infant who did it? Asked Shining. Lung Yishue said, eyewitnesses said so. We didn't believe it at first, but the injuries on the deceased, especially the one with the broken throat from the slap, were indeed only the size of an infant's palm. Everyone who heard it found it both ridiculous and terrifying. Divine Dr. Shui was also very interested in this and wanted to see the infant himself, but then he disappeared in White Bridge Town. Disappeared? Yes, disappeared. We suspect it's related to that female infant, as well as the Jade Girl Sword sect. After that, we stopped pursuing further, said Lung Yishue. Everyone knew that Divine Dr. Shui was tight-lipped, with a mouth as big as a basin, but his martial arts were also as vast as a basin. If even he had fallen into this trap, then the matter was troublesome. If you want to investigate, you can go to White Bridge Town. There should be a secret base of the Jade Girl Sword sect nearby, Lung Yiming said. Duan Yun quickly expressed his gratitude. Thanks a lot to both Duan Yun for your help. Lung Yiming hurriedly said, we're just helping you out of Jianghu righteousness. Don't think too much of it. Duan Yun said with a pained face, I really won't overthink it. Also, be careful lately. According to the Qingqi Bureau's intelligence reports, it seems that the dragon essence obtained by Yushu Palace was snatched by the beauty ghost of Ghost Mother's entourage. The beauty ghost has refined the dragon essence and has made her already terrifying skirt into the human species bag. You see one and she sucks them in. Recently, the beauty ghost has been bragging, saying she has a grudge against you and a woman who practices boxing and is coming to deal with you too. Adulterers. You guys be careful. As soon as these words were uttered, everyone's gaze fell on Duan Yun and Shin Ing. Feng Linger burst out angrily. What is this beauty ghost, blind? Even if they were adulterers, it's not her turn as the boxer. Shin Ing, on the other hand, seemed happy and mocked. Oh my! Some sword users always seem more superfluous. Then, Duan Yun stood up and asked, where is this beauty ghost? Lung Ishue blinked, puzzled. What are you going to do? Of course, I'm going to sort her out. Otherwise, let her live till New Year? People who don't know would think old demon Duan, think that young hero Duan is easy to bully. Right? She's one of Ghost Mother's, right? Where's the Ghost Mother? Let's deal with her too. Seeing how eager he was, everyone remembered that although the storyteller's tales were creatively embellished, some of it did reflect the truth. Like how old demon Duan was petty-minded, liked to proactively kill entire families. And here we go, not even ghosts were spared. Chapter 292. The clan-destroying living Yama. Old demon Duan, young hero Duan indeed. Seeing Duan Yun so eager to go search for the beautiful ghost right after dinner, the crowd was momentarily speechless. Because it sounded absurd, yet what's more absurd was that given Duan Yun's character, he really might do just that. This was also the reason why the martial world widely believed that old demon Duan was petty-minded. Sister Lang Ishue pondered, if you want to find her, I'm afraid we'll need to put in some effort, knowing that the Ghost Mother lineage is always elusive, and searching for their whereabouts is extremely dangerous. Hearing this, Duan Yun said, then there's no need to trouble the heroes of the Qingqi Bureau. It's not worth dying just to find them. She wants to find me and shadowing, right? I'll just wait here, waiting to capture this maiden. When the time comes, I'll infect her with my heroic spirit, and then find the entire Ghost Mother lineage. At that instant, everyone got goosebumps. Yes, aside from Fu Wanjun, almost everyone remembered the image of old demon Duan holding a human head shouting, I want to be a hero, which later turned into a guide for them. But the more you think about it, the more it feels off. Because the beautiful ghost was also an extremely terrifying character. Her basket and skirt were notorious instruments of death in the martial world, with few having escaped from beneath her skirts alive. Duan Yun was one of them, which is why the beautiful ghost harbored a grudge against him. Now that she had absorbed dragon essence, that ghostly skirt had become even more powerful, turning into the fearful human species bag, from which even the high-skilled lady of the Great River sect couldn't escape after only a few moves, not a single bone spared. This sinister old demon Duan facing off the eerie Ghost Mother lineage was truly unpredictable. For a moment, the group actually became intensely interested in watching the play unfold. One could only say that there is never a shortage of onlookers in the martial world. Everyone seems to have bloodthirsty genes for spectating. At this point, Lang Yiming continued, besides the beautiful ghost, you should also be careful of assassins lately. Assassins? Duan Yun asked, puzzled. You killed too many people, leaving others' families destroyed, so naturally someone would want you dead. I heard that a lot of silver has been gathered to hire an assassin from Netherworld Mountain Villa to take your life. Lang Yiming explained. The Murong brothers frowned. What level of assassin? Lang Yiming shook her head. Not clear, assassins are nameless, but anyone daring to take his commission is definitely not low-level. Duan Yun couldn't help saying, they just throw silver around to recklessly kill the good? Even a young hero like me is targeted. There must not be a single good person in Netherworld Mountain Villa. He nonchalantly picked up a piece of grilled fish and said, where is Netherworld Mountain Villa? Murong brothers' cheeks twitched, saying, you wouldn't think of going to Netherworld Mountain Villa to kill an entire family, would you? Why not? Duan Yun sighed. It seems like there are too many people I need to kill now. Feng Linger also picked up a piece of fish next to the one Duan Yun just took and said, Netherworld Mountain Villa has 18 layers, each different from the last. Assassins are nameless and elusive. There are probably over 1,000. This won't be easy for you. Duan Yun analyzed. If it's a villa with 18 layers, then there must be a location, right? Feng Linger shook her head and said, Netherworld Mountain Villa has 18 layers, but it's actually 3 layers per villa. which means there are 6 villas in total. Each one is quite secretive, and there's a saying in the martial world that only Netherworld can enter the most secretive villa. Duan Yun declared, "I don't care. If they want to kill me, then I must kill them. 6 villas, even if 1 or 2 are hard to find. The rest that can be found must all be exterminated." Saying so, he took out a small notebook and noted it down. The Thunder God and Mother sect had only been eradicated not long ago, and now 2 more pages had been added to this small booklet. One could only say that the road to becoming a young hero is long and arduous, and there's much more killing to do. Seeing the booklet he took out, everyone got the feeling of King Yen pulling out the book of life and death. Morong brothers couldn't help but ask, "You went after the Thunder God and Mother sect. What happened?" "Killed them all," Duan Yun answered. Because he was in such a rush to travel, there was Qingzhou in between. So the news of young hero Duan eradicating Thunder God and Mother sect hadn't arrived yet. Therefore, all people heard was about him making the Chongling sect swordswomen all shadowing, completely won over. Yes, it was believed in the martial world that the Chongling sect was now Old Demon Duan's sect, that the swordswomen of Chongling sect had been locked up by Old Demon Duan, becoming his private possession. This was originally a rumor, but the believability of the rumor increased not just because the storytellers spread it everywhere, but also because the sect's current leader Yu Zhenjin didn't clarify, as if tacitly agreeing. Or rather, Yu Zhenjin, now in power, spread some ambiguous rumors about her and Mr. Duan, which further confirmed this point. Killed all of them? To what extent? Lang Yiming and others blinked their beautiful eyes, looking shocked. The kind where all who should be killed were killed. Seeing the crowd still confused, Duan Yun briefly recounted the experience of storming Little Lei City and cleansing it thoroughly. After his narrative, everyone involuntarily gasped, so much so that the kitchen temperature seemed to rise noticeably. Among those present, aside from Duan Yun, who was a novice to the martial world, all were considered old riverside hands. They knew full well the mystery and terror of Thunder God and Mother sect. Deities like Lang Yiming and Lang Yishue, when encountering the lunatic Thunder listening, would turn a blind eye, as long as the latter didn't commit excessively bloody crimes. The Thunder God and Mother sect had a long history of nearly 1,000 years, and Little Lei City, hidden deep in the snowy mountains, was considered a forbidden place of the martial world. Yet, Old Demon Duan managed to obliterate such a force in a single visit. Even the enigmatic sect leader was killed. Chapter 293. Is this person even human? After a long journey, one man managed to annihilate a fearsome power that had been around for thousands of years in martial world, dwindling the famed Thunder listeners to near extinction. How absurd does that sound? At this moment, Morong brothers couldn't help but recall a saying, "Only cows get tired, fields don't wear out." But why does he feel like Old Demon Duan could easily ruin the field? Which sect could survive his torment? Suddenly, the ridiculous suggestion of eradicating the Ghost Mother Villa seemed somewhat reasonable with Old Demon Duan. Morong brothers remembered the first time they saw him practicing the 12 layers of spring rain. Duan Yun always had a magical power. That is, making unreasonable and absurd things seem reasonable. Felt weird and somewhat terrifying. Thinking of his reputation. Goodness, he really became a living Yama. At that moment, Duan Yun recalled something and said, "On my way back, I was sneak attacked and bitten on the butt by a venomous centipede. I found it odd at the time but couldn't figure out why. Could it be an assassin from Ghost Mother Villa?" Lang Yiming responded, "Can you detail precisely what happened?" Duan Yun recounted the centipede attack, and Lang Yiming analyzed, "This really does sound like Ghost Mother Villa's assassin style." Duan Yun perked up and said, "That must be it. Goodness, if I weren't so thick-skinned and tough, I might have been killed. What if next time they send a centipede with 100 times the poison? I'd really be poisoned then." Lang Yiming's cheeks twitched as she said, "The bright red centipede you mentioned is probably the red tide, the most poisonous kind. The only thing more toxic might be the poison immortal of the 5 immortal sect." Her implication was clear. If this level of poison did nothing, then the assassin likely couldn't produce anything more deadly. However, Duan Yun firmly said, "No, my pants were bitten through, and I loved those pants. I must catch this assassin and instill some heroic spirit in him to lead the way." Hearing this, everyone recalled the image of, "I want to be a great hero. It's just that, if the villa that assassin resides in isn't particularly strong, it might really be eradicated." After hearing the story of old demon Duan cleaning up Little Lay City, many were already silently mourning that certain Ghost Mother Villa. Although Ghost Mother Villa is frightening, especially the Manor Master's 18th layer White Jade City, mystifying and unpredictable, with the precedent set by the Thunder God and Mother Sect, it's hard to say if other layers' villas could surpass the strength of Thunder God and Mother Sect's Little Lay City. Why provoke old demon Duan of all people? Ghost Mother Villa always prides themselves on being able to kill anyone if the price is right, having tainted even royal blood throughout history. But what about this time? Could old demon Duan prove there are some deals they shouldn't make? At this, everyone's eagerness to watch the spectacle increased. It seemed that there was always excitement to be found around Duan Yun. Of course, they might end up as a spectacle for others in the midst of the excitement. At this moment, Morong brothers couldn't help but think of what Duan Yun just said, asking, "When you were battling the Master Cho of the Thunder God and Mother Sect, was she extremely robust, like the strongest weapon between heaven and earth, and you won by shattering her idol, catching her off guard?" Duan Yun nodded. Feng Linger, looking up in admiration, said, "Duan, could you elaborate on that? Your experience is quite incredible." Indeed, just a brief recount from Duan Yun had them all intrigued. A storyteller's tale always contains embellishments, but Duan Yun's experiences needed no exaggeration to be fascinating. In martial world, no tales match this one's excitement in a decade. Or to say, the extermination of a 1,000-year-old sect is a very rare event. Clearly, old demon Duan's massacre at Little Lay City could become one of the iconic incidents in martial world. It's just terrifying how much renown this person has gathered in about a year in martial world. Bear in mind, many admired figures in martial world only experience one or two such events in their lifetimes, some not even once. Then, Duan Yun shared some stories about his battle with the Red House Madwoman. "What, after killing the sect leader of the Thunder God and Mother Sect, you killed a red building woman with a stem?" Lung Ishue exclaimed in shock. "Yeah," Duan Yun said. Morong, looking totally confused, said, "Then why didn't you say that earlier? You guys were asking about the Thunder God and Mother Sect just now. That has little to do with the Red House Madwoman," explained Duan Yun. Ling Ishua's face showed panic as she said, "The tea you just mentioned must be the unique Xiandi owned by the little building owner of the Red House. Did you also kill the little building owner of the Red House by any chance?" For a moment, everyone gasped again. Honestly, they had done quite a lot of gasping today, almost to the point of numbness. Duan Yun recalled his earlier experience and shook his head. "I didn't know who she was. That woman was madly insane, shooting at me on sight, and her martial powers were quite profound, even better than mine. If I hadn't been lucky at that moment, I might not have won." Indeed, the situation was highly volatile at that time, and either party could have ended up paralyzed and fallen off the cliff. If he had been the one to fall, the outcome would have been uncertain, especially since half of his body had already been paralyzed by that juice. At this point, everyone was at a loss for words. If the rumored Xiandi of the little building owner of the Red House really grew askew, from the stomach up to the forehead, that would mean that old demon Duan had killed another core figure of a major power. It was as if in one day he had killed the sect leader of the Thunder God and Mother Sect and seamlessly murdered the little building owner of the Red House. The most talented and naturally gifted little building owner of the Red House, who had the greatest potential to return to the heavenly court. Morong was reminded again of that saying, "There are only dead oxen, no exhausted fields, but old demon Duan is an exception." How many fields had he plowed through just by leaving home this time? Are there many fields left in martial world? At this moment, Feng Linger was counting on her fingers. As she counted, she muttered, "That means you wiped out an enemy of the Thunder God and Mother Sect, and now you've deepened your feud with the Red House to perhaps a relentless extent, and the beautiful ghost who absorbed dragon essence will be looking for you, which means you'll make enemies with the line of Ghost Mother, and then on the road, encountering an assassin from Netherworld Mountain Villa who accepted a mission to kill you, you decided to eradicate that particular manor of Netherworld Mountain Villa. You've gone out and wiped out one, yet ended up with 3 more enemies. Feng Linger looked at him, somewhat dumbfounded. Duan Yun said seriously, "That's why I say young hero here hasn't killed enough, not thoroughly enough. There are just too many evil demons in this world who stand against justice." When he said this, his eyes could be said to be filled with conviction. For a moment, everyone fell silent. Who else in martial world could offend so many powers in one go? None. Those who originally came with an excited mood to watch the spectacle now seem likely to become the spectacle in the eyes of others. After all, they were with Duan Yun. Feng Linger and her group were a bit nervous and uneasy, yet they showed no sign of backing down, because they were friends with Duan Yun. Very special friends. They believed they would never meet another friend like Duan Yun in this lifetime. So they were willing to watch the show, as well as join old Demon Duan in becoming the show. Besides, after following young hero Duan and becoming part of the Yuju 4 heroes once, they deeply experienced the thrill of performing righteous deeds. They had almost decided to follow old Demon Duan and become heroes themselves. Murong even had higher aspirations. He wanted to surpass old Demon Duan and become the leader of the Yuju 4 heroes, the follower of Green Blade Demon, his starting point. He wanted to be a hero too. So Murong, with a fervent look, put down his bowls and chopsticks and dashed to his room. Curious, everyone could not help but follow to take a look. They saw Green Blade Demon lying under the bed, eyes brimming with hot tears as he recalled his green past, his green hair wildly fluttering. To surpass young hero Duan and become the leader of the Yuju 4 heroes, he must keep getting stronger. Chapter 294. Extraordinary Wisdom in Motion. The old demon's exquisite gift. Duan Yun returned to Yuju Villa, feeling a blissful relaxation all over. How should I describe this happiness? It's like spending a whole day as a corporate slave in a past life, returning home, slipping into pajamas, and lounging comfortably. He used to be so diligent in his acts of chivalry, but now he was equally adept at relaxing. Although young hero Duan still had many evil demons to slay and couldn't wait to leap at clues that would lead him straight to their lairs, he would never mistreat himself when it was time to rest. After all, as Sun once said in our elementary school textbooks, when it's time to act for justice, do so wholeheartedly, and when it's time to rest, enjoy it heartily. It must be said that coming home to rest feels great, especially when apart from Murong's average looks, the other friends are quite pleasing to the eye. Fu Wanjun truly was a woman of her words, saying she came to consult Dr. Duan for a medical condition. Once healed, she left briskly and stylishly. This deeply touched Murong. Wanjun truly was the epitome of grace and elegance, showing not the slightest interest in Duan Yun even when he locked her in the cellar for treatment. As she was leaving, Fu Wanjun suddenly tossed a jade pendant to Duan Yun, saying, "Dr. Duan, consider it payment for your medical services." And then she walked away without looking back. The pendant was clearly made of ancient jade and very valuable. Looking at the pattern, Duan Yun asked doubtfully, "Are those 2 ducks?" Feng Linger clenched her fists and said, "Does she not understand? How could she carelessly give away a mandarin duck heart-to-heart wishful pendant?" Watching this scene, Murong fell to the ground with a thud, and like a snake, slid under the bed with his green hair floating. He was destined to become the foremost among the 4 heroes of Yuju. Duan Yun didn't bother whether it was ducks or mandarin ducks as long as it was valuable. That day, Lung Yixue and Lung Yiming were about to leave. Thinking it over, Duan Yun then handed the mandarin duck heart-to-heart wishful pendant given by Fu Wanjun to Lung Yiming. Sister Lung Yiming immediately tensed up. "What do you mean? Who wants to be a mandarin duck pair with you? I've said before, even if my parents might agree now, with your demon reputation so prominent, the order within will not." Duan Yun's forehead vein throbbed, wanting to interrupt, but Lang Yiming continued, "Unless, Well, I'll try to help clear your suspicions, but now really isn't the TI. Before she could finish, Duanyun took the jade pendant from her hand, handed it to Lang Ishue, and said, "Thanks for your help during this time. I really don't have much of value on me. Consider this a small token of appreciation, whether it's ducks or mandarin ducks." "Thank you, thank you." As he said this, he held Lang Ishue's delicate and fair hand, shaking it gratefully. At that moment, Lang Ishue's heart raced, recalling something very impressive about Duanyun. Now his fingertips touching her skin seemed to reach deep into her soul. Afterwards, appearing confused yet sensible, Lang Ishue nodded her head after Duanyun's appreciative handshake, then tucked the jade pendant into her towering bodice. On their way back, Sister Lang Yiming stared at Lang Ishue's bodice for a long while and said, "Sister, that jade pendant was given to me, you should return it." Lang Ishue raised her eyebrows. "Given to you? Why is it with me then? I only remember him placing it in my hands." "Lang Ishue, are you going to be like this?" Lang Yiming exclaimed angrily. "What have I done? I simply accepted a mandarin duck heart-to-heart wishful pendant someone else gave. Why so agitated over it? Give it back. It's mine." Duanyun's life of rest was extremely joyful, particularly when it came to renovating his cellar, which was absolutely exhilarating. Though Murong lost some materials on the way, there were still plenty left. As these materials filled his cellar, and he expanded and decorated, his satisfaction was through the roof. This cellar, if he kept this up, would soon become an underground palace. What a place to confine, no, to save many people. These days, Fenglinger would occasionally come to the cellar to help Duanyun, making it feel like they were building a love nest together. In the afternoon, Duanyun was hanging lamps sourced from the Chongling Sect cellar with Fenglinger when Shen Ying arrived. With a cold face, she glanced at Fenglinger, then said to Duanyun, "Duanyun, come with me. I have something to show you." Fenglinger raised an eyebrow. "What kind of secretive thing is it that I can't see?" Shen Ying seriously replied, "Indeed, it's not for outsiders." Duanyun, interested in what Ying had to share, asked, "Where shall we look?" "In my room." "All right." Then Duanyun followed Shen Ying to her room. Fenglinger attempted to peek, but in a flash, the doors and windows were shut tight, obscuring any view from outside. "Shen Ying, where is it?" Upon entering, Duanyun saw Shen Ying sitting directly on the bed, not holding anything, and couldn't help asking. At that moment, Shen Ying lifted her skirt, revealing her fair legs, and asked, "Do you notice something missing on my legs?" Duanyun pondered. "Your legs are as white as jade, flawless. Nothing's missing." "Look again." Saying so, she lifted her skirt a bit more. Duanyun was still puzzled. The next moment, Shen Ying grabbed Duanyun's collar and said, "You claim to be the young hero, so you should keep your promises. What did you promise me?" Suddenly realizing, Duanyun replied, "Socks." "Why then are my legs bare?" Shen Ying demanded. "I." Duanyun was momentarily at a loss for words. Due to his busy schedule removing demons and maintaining justice, he had indeed forgotten about this. He quickly apologized. "I'm wrong. I will deliver them within 3 days." Chapter 295. Hearing Duanyun say that, Shen Ying's eyes, as a skin fanatic, lit up as she said, "Really?" Duanyun nodded and replied, "Really. This time, young hero Duan will absolutely keep his word." Shen Ying let go of his hand, helped smooth out his ruffled clothing, and while doing so, said, "As long as you remember, that's good." Young hero Duan says and does things promptly. That very afternoon, without even having afternoon tea, he mounted Big White and set off. The horse and Little Gray watched the man and bear duo departing, both showing an expression of, "Don't you need us anymore?" Wangchun City, the great furnace, smoke and fog billowing. This usually indicates that the forging masters of the great furnace are busy at work. Duanyun entered the shop at the great furnace, where he was greeted by that sweet lady, as always. She had a deep impression of the handsome Duanyun, and hurried over to welcome him when she saw him. "Customer, Long time no see. I've really missed you. I even thought you might not come again, the woman teased. Duan Yun replied, Thank you for your concern, lady. I'm here for business as usual. Is your husband available? The woman smiled, her cheeks revealing two sweet dimples, and said, Mr. Duan, you can talk to me about anything. Duan Yun took out the Xianlei iron sword and said, Can the lady take charge of such business nowadays? He remembered that last time, business of this level would normally require the man to come forward. The woman said, Mr. Duan, it's true that I'm now in charge of the shop. Alas, my poor fate. My husband passed away from illness 2 months ago. Dead, Duan Yun said, somewhat surprised. Firstly, he was surprised that the shopkeeper had died so suddenly, seemingly in good health and possessing martial arts skills, yet carelessly fell to illness. Secondly, he was surprised at the woman before him, whose every nod and smile were so charming, her eyes seemingly enticing, showing not a trace of a widow's sorrow, but rather an air of joy. Seeing the young widow still gazing at him, Duan Yun quickly said, My condolences, lady. I wish to sell this sword. The woman looked perplexed and asked, You really want to sell such a precious sword? Indeed, I do, Duan Yun replied. He now had the more suitable Huangshan golden sword, so the Xianlei iron sword had been set aside. It was perfect to sell for gold and exchange it for silkworm silk to handcraft stockings for shadowing. The young widow looked at the sword and, struggling, said, Mr. Duan, this sword is already a finished product. I fear it won't fetch the same high price as it initially did. Didn't you say that the forging fee wasn't cheap? Quickly serving him tea, the widow said, You might not know, Mr. Duan, but now that the sword is made, it's hard to alter due to the special nature of Xianlei iron. Plus, having been used by you for a while, it's akin to second-hand goods. It's like me, the woman of a dead man, to remarry would probably not be as valuable. Saying this, she gave Duan Yun a mischievous look. Duan Yun asked, Then, what price does the lady suggest? The woman quoted a figure that Duan Yun reluctantly accepted. A man's word is his bond, and acts of heroism ultimately have their rewards. There's no need to fuss over a bit of money. The woman, holding the sword, couldn't help but ask, You're in a hurry to sell the sword? Do you have an emergency? Duan Yun nodded and said, I want to buy some silkworm silk. Silkworm silk? How much do you need? The young widow asked. Do you sell silkworm silk here too? Duan Yun asked in confusion. The Yunjin workshop is the only place that sells silkworm silk around here, and it just so happens that I'm also somewhat the second boss there, the young widow replied. Duan Yun couldn't help but inwardly exclaim, Wow, she's actually wealthy. Duan Yun inquired about the price and found that it was indeed 10% cheaper than if he were to buy on his own. Is this silk genuine? Of course it's genuine. If you're still worried, we can do as we did before. Take me as collateral until you've thoroughly checked the goods. Then you can let me return, how about that? The woman suggested. Duan Yun quickly said, I trust the lady. Could you please deliver the silk by tomorrow? The young widow's tone was slightly disappointed as she said, You can rest assured, Mr. Duan. Although it will require some arrangement since you've requested quite a lot, I will still fulfill your needs. Thus, Duan Yun acquired the raw material for the stockings. Now that he had the materials for the stockings, what remained was to weave them. Duan Yun had never woven anything before, not even a sweater, but now he had to at least weave 2 pairs of stockings within 3 days. He had bought silkworm silk in 2 colors, snow and ink, and he had already planned to make 2 types of stockings, white silk for hugging long legs and black silk for pantyhose. Although he was clueless about weaving, Duan Yun was far from anxious. He was a 1 in a million cultivation genius. If he could create his own martial arts, he didn't believe he couldn't come up with 2 pairs of stockings. The next day, the young widow shopkeeper personally delivered the silk, and Duan Yun, eager to start making stockings, barely exchanged pleasantries before sending her off. The young widow shopkeeper, looking at the dilapidated gate of the mountain villa, couldn't help but feel annoyed. What kind of person is this? Facing the half-bolt of snow and ink-colored silkworm silk, Duan Yun's gaze was clear. Crafting 2 pairs of stockings was not a particularly difficult task for him, especially since both of his Dharma images wore stockings. Dressing a Dharma image in skin might sound simple in thought, but in reality it's not so easy. You see, the more realistic and fine the skin, the more lifelike the Dharma image will be. So whether it's Little Yu or the twin-tailed boxer, Duan Yun was extremely familiar with stockings. Now he was about to replicate that skin in reality. Breaking body sword energy. Come forth. With a sudden shout from Duan Yun, the breaking body sword energy shot out from his fingertips like needles. The next moment, his hand lifted and the snow-colored silk rose into the air. The breaking body sword energy instantly pierced through the silkworm silk, like real fine needles, threading the silk strands. Chapter 296. Duan Yun's extraordinary wisdom whirled in his mind, and the dimensions of Shadow Ying's long legs vividly appeared in his thoughts. He had been well aware of Shadow Ying's figure for quite some time. In an instant, breaking body sword energy threaded the needle, entwining itself with jade silkworm threads. To perfect his craft, he verified the knitting density and sheerness of the stockings, considering 5D white silk suitable, whereas black silk required 0D transparency. With this in mind, Duan Yun flicked his right hand, and the ink-colored jade silkworm threads began to float. Breaking body sword energy. Go! The next moment, Duan Yun's ingenious wisdom was in motion, his hands moving as if drawing a bow, sending the jade silkworm threads dancing. Little Yu, come out! Jade sword true chi sprayed forth, forming the Little Yu Dharma image before Duan Yun as a reference. As the jade silkworm threads weaved, 2 pairs of stockings gradually took shape, and with the refined manipulation of breaking body sword energy, even exquisite and elegant patterns were embroidered. No one understands stockings better than me. Murong brothers and Feng Linger were listening to the commotion outside, both feeling somewhat puzzled. Old Demon Duan is practicing some demon technique again. Hearing Duan Yun's shout, the Murong brothers couldn't help but feel their blood boiling. Old Demon Duan is becoming stronger again. When Duan Yun emerged from the house, he couldn't help but exhale deeply. Truth be told, knitting these stockings was more mentally exhausting than he had anticipated, but he was satisfied with the result. The stockings were now safely tucked in his arms, ready to be given away. In the evening, Duan Yun went to find Shadow Ying. To be honest, he was a bit nervous. This was the first time in his life he was giving a woman a gift, and that gift was a pair of stockings he had knitted himself. How could he not feel a bit perverted? Shadow Ying was not in her room, so he went to the backyard. In the backyard, Xining was collecting clothes that had been hanging out to dry. The afterglow of the sunset cast a beautiful light upon her delicate face. For a moment, Duan Yun's heart raced, and he found it difficult to look away. At that moment, he felt as if he were back to when he first saw the box containing Shadow Ying, which kept luring him relentlessly like a flirtatious Jezebel. He also remembered the moment the coffin opened, and the fondness he felt towards someone who was pleasing to the eye. It was the kind of fondness that Murong brothers described as the inevitable bond between siblings. At that time, Xining, with a dress in her hands, saw him and raised her eyebrows. Looking for me? Duan Yun walked over, took out the 2 pairs of stockings from his chest, and placed them in Xinying's hands, saying, I've finished making the thing you wanted. Somehow, his voice was unusually soft, far from the boldness he had when being a young hero. Because giving a woman stockings really did feel a bit improper. If this were in his previous life, even if a girl had a good impression of you, she'd probably still call you a pervert. Luckily in this life, it was this shadow girl who had asked for them. Xining looked at the 2 pairs of stockings laid atop her clothes, her eyes shifting from confusion to brightness. She picked them up and instantly couldn't put them down. How did you know I like this color, this pattern, this thickness? Xining said joyfully. Duan Yun's lips curled into a smile, replying, because I'm a once-in-a-million stocking genius. This time, Xining didn't call out his bragging but instead hugged him excitedly, saying, Thank you. I really love them. Afterward, she walked away happily with the stockings, seeming eager to try them on. However, halfway through, she suddenly turned around and said, "Let's get one thing straight. Even if you coax me with such pretty things, I won't agree to anything before our kinship is confirmed. Duan Yun, I never even asked you what's there to agree or disagree with." Chapter 297. Murong the hero with graceful bearing, old demon Duan ruthlessly destroys the flower. For 2 days following, Fenglinger still enjoyed seeking out Duan Yun to help him build his underground palace. But she felt something wasn't quite right. That was Shening seemed to not mind at all, showing a faint trace of joy every day during meals. All these changes had started after Shening sought out Duan Yun. This day, Shening was humming a tune as usual on her way to fetch water, and Fenglinger followed her. Seeing this, Shening asked, "What's up?" Seeing Shening in such good spirits, Fenglinger couldn't help but ask, "What did you show Duan Yun last time?" Shening blinked her beautiful eyes, mimicking Fenglinger's tone, and said, "How is that any of your business?" Having spent a lot of time with Fenglinger, she had learned how to talk in riddles. Fenglinger suddenly thought of something and demanded, "Did you two sneak a bite?" Shening couldn't help but laugh, continuing to speak cryptically, "You should ask him about these matters. After all, such things aren't led by a woman alone." Hearing this, Fenglinger was quite upset. She didn't mind talking in riddles with Shening, but when the other party used the same method against her, she somewhat couldn't stand it. The key was that this shadow girl's answer was maddeningly evasive. It was neither a confession nor a denial, seeming both guilty and innocent. Asking Duan Yun was even less likely because no matter the answer, it would make her seem weird. Seeing this cunning girl suddenly speechless, Shening proudly puffed out her flat chest and walked away like a victorious rooster. It took nearly 10 days for Duan Yun to finally finish repairing the cellar. Looking at the state of this cellar, it was incredibly invincible. Duan Yun even spent 2 whole days lying in his cellar, wishing he could stay a little longer. Yes, this cellar was like his kingdom. Thinking that many people could be healed inside, transformed from villains to heroes filled with heroic spirit, he felt a gratifying sense of satisfaction. In the afternoon, Duan Yun and the Murong brothers sat by the nameless lake, fishing. The days since returning were full of peace, joy, and leisure. Duan Yun remembered it clearly. When he first arrived in this world, he was an obscure gynecologist, worrying about his livelihood every day. Eating only 2 meals a day, he once feared he would starve to death. But now, he no longer had to worry about making a living. As long as he didn't desire too much material wealth, he could afford to fish leisurely. After Fenglinger and Shening became fishing addicts, Duan Yun and the Murong brothers could not avoid the same fate. Their addiction was even greater. Starting right after lunch, the two had been fishing, and now it was almost dusk, still without any catch. Duan Yun could never understand why some fishermen could keep fishing all night without a single catch and still refuse to leave. Fishing is a relaxing leisure activity, but also one where you don't want to return empty-handed. Sitting and fishing seems boring, but in reality, there's always a faint hope. Hope for a catch. At this hour, one should probably give up, but Duan Yun and the Murong brothers looked at each other, neither making a move. Because before heading out, both had boasted they would catch fish for dinner. Now, not a single fish was caught. The two looked at each other, each hoping the other would resort to special measures, like using sword chi to attack the fish's lair, forcibly making those damned fish jump ashore. But still, neither made a move. Fishing that turns into hunting fish somehow feels like a failure. Neither of them wanted to taste this humble failure. At this moment, the sun only left a trace of afterglow on the horizon, and the colors of the entire lake had become much more profound. After nightfall, this place would certainly turn into a different scene. The profound waters of the lake, the bleak forests, and behind those forests a large graveyard. The nearby town even had rumors of ghosts haunting the graveyard and giant fish eating people. Such a scene, after nightfall, would no matter what resemble the set of a horror movie. Known as Old Demon Duan and Green Blade Demon in the eyes of Jianghu people, such characters were the stuff of nightmares. not afraid of ghosts. But here they were, afraid of not catching fish. Returning empty-handed is shameful, and cheating is shameless. But considering the big talk they boasted before leaving, and the women waiting for their fish to be cooked, they were both itching to cheat. If the night completely fell, cheating might become even more difficult. Duan Yun hesitated. "You go do something." Pretending not to understand, the Murong brother said, "I suddenly feel the need to poop." Duan Yun wished he could kick the crap out of him. But just then, the Murong brothers' fishing rods suddenly jerked. Fish on! This got them both terribly excited, looking more thrilled than if they had discovered a Martial World treasure or a beauty fragrant as a flower. They were also very careful. It wasn't easy to hook a fish, and they had to be gentle. The fishing line was sinking, the rod bending. The fish seemed pretty big. The Murong brother grabbed the rod, finding the force much stronger than he expected. Fishing is all about being steady, accurate, and ruthless. As a martial arts expert, particularly in front of old Demon Duan, although he wasn't as handsome, as powerful, or as captivating to women as Duan Yun, he couldn't lose at fishing. Thus, he steeled his energy in his dantian, his fingers gripping firmly, determined not to let this one get away. With a swish, as the rod was skillfully pulled, something white suddenly broke through the water's surface. "We got it!" But when this fish landed on the shore, both men were somewhat dumbfounded. If by some stretch these could be called fish, then they could only be two mermaids. Two young girls were bound within a fishing net, their appearances beautiful and ethereal, their figures sultry, looking almost exactly alike. Chapter 298. The key point is they were unclothed. They met each other stark naked, leaving Duan Yun and Murong brothers not knowing where to set their eyes. They were intricately bound in a peculiar way within the fishing net, making their figures even more enticing. However, young hero Duan, being the paragon of chivalry, immediately concerned himself with whether the two young ladies were harmed. Murong inspected more carefully and quickly found a clue as he pulled away the fishing net. They were acupoints sealed by someone. Murong's finger touched their smooth skin like satin, and the two girls couldn't help but let out a stifled groan together. The girl on the left slowly opened her eyes, spat out a mouthful of blood, and then her complexion changed instantly. Her eyes filled with terror, as if Duan Yun and Murong brothers were two death-seeking evil spirits. She was clearly terrified to a great extent. But what was more horrifying was that her originally pale face suddenly turned dark blue, and her pupils dilated. In the next instant, she uttered poison, and immediately, black blood spilled from her lips as she stopped breathing. Duan Yun quickly checked her breathing and heart, only to find she had already died. Almost at the same time, the other girl also frowned. Murong thought of something, urgently sealed her acupoints again with his fingers, but it was too late. Her lips bled black blood, and she had already died violently. Such fast acting and sinister poison. Murong's trembling fingers spoke. Watching two beautiful girls die so suddenly, Murong's face turned as pale as paper. He had caused this. Previously, their acupoints were sealed, their bodies nearly in a turtle sleep state, slowing their blood flow. But as soon as he released their acupoints, the poison quickly spread, causing their immediate deaths. Whoever bound them like this and left them submerged in the water, having been fished up by him. At this time, the last twilight of the sunset had disappeared at the horizon. The two mermaid-like young girls' corpses lay on the dark, eerie lakeshore, creating an extremely eerie scene. Unsuspecting people might think they were both raped and killed. With a gulp, at that moment, the water suddenly made a sound, as if a large fish swam by. Not right. The Murong brothers suddenly realized and leaped into the water in a flash. Yes, it was too coincidental. The two girls had been submerged in the water but were still alive. Even in a turtle sleep state, they wouldn't stay under for too long. And coincidentally, they were caught by Murong's fishing hook. That could only mean someone deliberately placed them on his hook. And that recent noise was the person who placed the hook. The main culprit. Green Saber, Morong would never allow beautiful girls to die so easily. Beautiful girls are the best in the world. With a loud splash, Morong dove into the water, his form swift as lightning. Underwater, shrouded in darkness, yet he caught a glimpse of a shadow. Morong quickly pursued as if he were a worm, chasing after it. Being adept at swimming on land, his movements were even smoother in water, making him exceedingly fast. Duan Yun watched Morong dive in and wanted to follow, but hesitated upon seeing the two girls' corpses nearby. Hand-palm thunder. In the next instant, his palms burst with two streaks of lightning, directly striking the hearts of the two girls. With a bang, the two girls shook violently, their hair standing on end. Worried about Morong, Duan Yun quickly drew the two corpses towards him, continuing the electric shocks while taking them with him to chase Morong. He was attempting to use the current through the girls' hearts to resuscitate them. So, on the lake surface, one could soon see the two girls' corpses being shocked, flying about but unable to escape from the swift movement of the old devil's palms on the water. Underwater, Morong had already caught up. He reached maximal speed, but upon arrival he saw no one. It was indeed the bottom of the lake, surrounded by sparse water plants. In the dim waters they appeared like ghost claws. Suddenly, two ghost claws came to life and reached for Morong's rear. As an old riverside, Morong, though underwater, still remained vigilant, well aware that such places with plants were perfect for ambushes. Thus, the moment the ghost claws struck, he reacted. But it must be said that the placement of these ghost claws was very tricky. Positioned just at his oblique rear, and Morong wanted to counter with his saber but couldn't muster the strength. The ghost claws were fast and fierce, and it seemed Morong couldn't dodge in time. At that moment his head swayed. A swish sound came, no saber, but a sound of a saber whooshed. Suddenly, Morong's green hair rushed down his back, acting as a sharp saber's edge. Ever since training to have green hair, it had become as tough and resilient as he was. Therefore, with this sweep, it carried tremendous force. Whoosh! The green hair collided with the ghost claws, creating a series of sharp white marks, and even the surrounding water plants were shredded. The ghost claws disappeared into the mud. Morong, carrying his saber, pursued. Soon after, he completely lost the trace. The adversary had clearly done this deliberately, the water plants becoming denser, and the figure was probably camouflaged, almost blending in with the environment. At this time, as the sunset had vanished, it became even harder to discern any traces. Chapter 299. The opponent occupied an absolute advantage of the terrain and seemed to be very proficient in swimming. If he continued to stay here recklessly, the one in danger would probably be him. So, the Morong brothers surfaced and swam out of the water. The world was dim, leaving only the faint reflection on the surface of the water. For a moment, the Morong brothers couldn't see where the shore was and got somewhat disoriented. But they soon saw Duan Yun, because they first saw lightning, and then as they got closer, they saw the bodies of two beautiful young women twitching from the electric shocks in old demon Duan's hands. Not even sparing the dead bodies. Put them down. The Morong brothers couldn't stand to see the bodies of the beautiful young women being tortured and hurriedly intervened. Seeing that they were unharmed, Duan Yun shocked the bodies a couple more times while asking, "Did you lose them?" The Morong brothers sullenly said, "Lost them. What are you doing?" Duan Yun replied, "Trying to revive them. Any use? No use anymore." Duan Yun sighed, carrying the two girls whose bodies had their hair standing on end from the shocks back to shore. Indeed, his electric shocks had failed to bring them back to life. After the Morong brothers came ashore, they immediately took the bodies of the two girls into their arms, unable to refrain from weeping. "Such a pity! So beautiful and young. To die like this. It's all my fault. I couldn't avenge you." In the desolate forest, Duan Yun stood in front of a hole and said, "Stop holding them. Let them rest in peace." The Morong brothers, with reddened eyes, said, "Ah, it's my fault. If I hadn't been in such a hurry to release the acupuncture points, you wouldn't have been poisoned this quickly." After all, this was the first fish he had caught. And they were two beautiful women, an unexpected outcome. We met without knowing even each other's names. And now we part forever. I don't deserve to have feelings. For a moment, an endless feeling of hatred and sorrow formed in the heart of the Morong brothers. Duan Yun watched him, and finally, with great reluctance, they placed the two girls' bodies into the hole. He intended to wail in sorrow, but then Duan Yun swept his hand, and the earth covered their beautiful faces. May they rest in peace, accept the inevitable with resignation, Duan Yun consoled. Afterwards, he pulled the sobbing Morong brothers away. The sobbing faded into the distance, and the forest returned to its quietness. In the middle of the night, the originally silent wilderness was visited by two men in black. These two men in black were two young men with deep-set facial tattoos, looking almost identical. They hurriedly arrived at the newly raised burial mound, digging quickly with their hands. Within moments, the bodies of the two young women were unearthed. The two men in black quickly massaged the bodies of the two women and fed them several green elixirs. Suddenly, with a groan, the bodies of the two beautiful women slowly opened their eyes. The dead had really come back to life. Seeing the men in black in front of them, tears immediately fell from their eyes. "Chu, it's all right now. Lady, it's all right now," the two men in black said with a look of heartache. The girl on the left, with hair standing on end and a haggard face, said, "This old demon Duan isn't human. We were feigning death just fine, not having attacked him yet, when he started unleashing electricity on us two sisters, shocking us to the point where we couldn't move at all. Look, even the bear was scorched black. Whimper, that ugly man with green hair cuddled and touched us for a long time. Though we were feigning death, we could still slightly feel it. So disgusting." Upon hearing this, the faces of the two men in black turned green. "Lady, we brothers will definitely avenge this. Old demon Duan and that green-haired man, they must die. After this job, we can become the manor masters of Sea Village. There's no one in this world that the four of us can't kill. Let's retreat." But at that moment, all four of them shuddered as a man holding a green saber with his green hair fluttering suddenly appeared beside a tree in front of them. Green Blade Demon, only to see the Morong brothers with tears in their eyes, saying to the two girls, "I'm happy you're alive, but it's painful for me because you deceived my feelings. In that case, I'll just kill them." With that, he charged at the two men in black with his sword. Morong was elegant and unwilling to turn his hand against the beautiful young women, so such a task could only be entrusted to the ruthless old demon Duan. In the next instant, a whooshing wind was heard from behind. Recalling the experience of being electrocuted, the two women were already trembling in fear, their faces pale. It was old demon Duan coming to torment them again. Chapter 300. The dual heroes of Yuzhu show their divine might. The green blade demon appeared abruptly, especially under the cover of darkness. The image of him brandishing the green saber and his green hair fluttering as he charged over was particularly terrifying. These twin brothers were quite handsome, and each had married a sister from another set of twins. Being already close as brothers, they coordinated seamlessly in killing, and with the addition of their twin wives, it was like adding wings to a tiger. Relying solely on their wives' deceitful strategy of luring others by being undressed, they have killed at least 20 well-known and skilled fighters. These fighters, at least half of them were more accomplished in their cultivation, but all of them died. Especially the men who died even faster, because their wives were truly beautiful, with a kind of vulnerable charm that no man could resist the stirring of lust upon seeing them. In front of such women, men are most likely to display machismo and an uncontrollable arrogance. And this arrogance often becomes the death knell for their sudden demise. The four of them together, two brothers and two sisters, have never failed, which is why they could climb the ranks so quickly in Netherworld Mountain Villa and become gold-ranked assassins, daring to take on the task of killing old demon Duan. For they always considered themselves to be 1 in 10,000, a rare talent amongst assassins. Together, they were invincible in the world. However, who would have thought that this foolproof strategy would fail? This old demon Duan was simply inhuman. Who else would start by unleashing a wild storm of thunderbolts upon the helpless bodies of two pitiful beauties? But what was worse, an even more dire situation arose. They believed that if they failed several assassination attempts, they could retreat gracefully. After all, it was highly unlikely anyone would suspect the dead could come back to life. But now, the enemy had evidently discovered this. Hence the waiting ambush like watching for rabbits by a tree. The brothers' weapon of choice was the water needle. Their underwater kung fu was superb. In water, they could launch surprises and even play with the green blade demon. But on land, with the enemy emerging so abruptly, they found themselves at a loss. The brothers reacted swiftly, kicking each other with their left and right feet, hoping to use the rebound to split up and escape. But it was too late. First came a whooshing sound as a tuft of green hair suddenly entangled the elder brother's ankle, causing him to falter in his movement. Endless hatred. The next instant, the Murong brothers let out a deep roar, and a surge of green sword chi howled and swirled towards them. Where the sword chi passed, the air twisted and formed green ripples. As assassins, their expertise lay in stealth and backstabbing. A direct confrontation was not their forte. Yet in that moment, Murong brothers' sword chi, laden with grief and indignation, was so brutally overwhelming. With a snap, the water needle in his hand was whipped away, and the sword chi penetrated his shoulder, deep enough to show bone. Ah! The male assassin cried out in pain and tumbled to the ground. Jingzha! As the elder brother fell to the sword chi, the younger brother managed to pull away and create some distance. A wise man knows to bide his time for survival. Lady, sister-in-law, brother, I will come back for you. In that instant, a terrifying surge of sword chi flew from below. Indeed, he fled swiftly, but Murong brothers' sword chi was even faster. The strike was like a green rainbow cleansing the sky, creating rings of afterimages in its wake. The younger brother frantically dodged, shielding his vital points, but alas, his lower leg was sliced open. A surge of enduring hatred and pain shot straight to his brain. The assassin's face turned green as if poisoned, and with a cry of agony, he also fell. On one side, the two brothers were cut down by young hero Rome, while on the other side, the two female assassins, previously numbed by young hero Duan's lightning, were even less able to withstand it. At the sight of his handsome face, remembering the lightning that had pierced through them countless times, they lost all courage to fight in an instant. And so they were captured. Both were rendered senseless as Mr. Duan's palms suctioned their heads. Beiming divine skill, activate. In an instant, leaves at Duan Yun's feet danced around, accompanying the ripples of chi like small waves spreading out. In the forest below the graveyard, the two twin brothers, with handsome faces, watched as old demon Duan voraciously drained their wives, suddenly clutching their chests and yelling, "Old demon Duan, give it all you've got. Give it all you've got. I beg you. You won't go hard on them, and we're supposed to just die?" Murong brothers' eyes reddened with anger upon hearing such a twisted statement. You don't cherish such beautiful women, and you actually let others be rough with them? Are you even men? Disgusting. Disgusting. Truly disgusting. Why would you do such a thing? Why? Saying this, he grabbed the heads of two male assassins and started banging them against the ground. The faces of the two male assassins were bloodied from the impact, as they cried out, "We want to know why too. Isn't it all because of your demon blade? Why would you practice such a malicious sword technique?" Murong brothers said in shock, "How dare you slander my chivalrous sword? My green saber, pa. The sword of Murong young hero is meant to slay the impure. If you loved enough, nothing would be unconquerable. Look at me." Saying so, he delivered a slash with his green saber upon himself and rebuked, "Why is it that I'm affected by the same sword chi but don't have such filthy thoughts like you?" The younger brother, with a face covered in blood and tears, painfully said, "You're the green blade demon. Maybe you're used to it, or perhaps you've never even had a woman you truly loved. Shut your mouth. How dare you defame me, such a passionate and tender Murong young hero? You deserve to die." Upon saying that, the Murong brothers furiously decapitated him with a single slash. In just an instant, the assassin brother was cut into two halves. The last scene he saw before dying was his wife and sister-in-law being sucked dry by old demon Duan, shivering violently, and then suddenly screaming in unison, "I want to be a hero!" What a terrifying and bizarre spectacle. Why did they provoke such an evil demon? As assassins, the last thing they needed was a misjudgment, and this one mistake led to the destruction of their family, annihilating 4 lives. They died miserably. Sadly, they didn't get to see old demon Duan brutally torturing their lady before they perished in agony. After that, he died. His eyes remained wide open in death. At this time, Duan Yun had already let go, and the 2 female assassins stood there looking pitiful yet ferocious. The pitiful part was their demeanor, especially since they had been bullied, while the ferocious side was their desire to become heroes. "I want to be a hero." The older sister's eyes glazed over and she suddenly shouted out loud. Duan Yun nodded and said, "A hero should be clothed in the presence of others." Saying this, he stripped 2 garments from the deceased brother. "I want to be a hero." At that moment, the younger sister also came to her senses and began putting on her dead husband's clothes. The assassin brother who laid on the ground painfully questioned, "Do they look pretty?" Duan Yun nodded. "Decent. How about their figures?" "Top-notch," Duan Yun responded. "So you're done after just pressing down on their heads? Why make them wear clothes? Quick, you should take advantage of them now." Duan Yun, with a gentlemanly demeanor and a righteous expression, said, "I refuse. Ah, I'm in so much pain. I'm going to die." The male assassin suddenly grabbed a water needle beside him and swiftly thrust it through his own throat. Murong brothers couldn't help but comment while looking at the 2 corpses. "What kind of people are these?" Duan Yun agreed with a nod. "Sigh. There are really too few righteous people like us in the martial world." Then he looked towards the 2 female assassins beside him, feeling slightly relieved. Luckily, the location of the Netherworld mountain villa should be about right.